ହେଇଗଲା କି ଚାଲିଛି?
Sir, corporate governance is a system of procedure by which a company is directed and controlled. And in this process, the benefit of stakeholders are maintained.
Benefits of stakeholders are maintained. এটা ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ କହିଲେ କୋଉଠୁ ଗୋଟେ ପାଇଲେ ନା କଣ?
Sir, ମୁଁ ପଢିଥିଲି ଆଗରୁ ତ ସେଇଟା ମନେ ଥିଲା କହିଲି।
Okay. ନାଇଁ, I'm just asking because see, definition was କେମିତି ଆମେ ବୁଝେଇବା? ଆପଣ ଯାହା କହିଲେ ତାକୁ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲେନ କରିପାରିବେ? ସାଧାରଣ ଭାବରେ କିଛି କହିପାରିବେ? How what really means what you said?
ସାର୍ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଯୋଉ ସ୍କାମ୍ ଫାମ୍ ସବୁ ହଉଛି ସପ୍ତମ ସ୍କାମ୍ ଯୋଉ ସ୍କାମ୍ ହେଲା ସେଇ ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ କର୍ପୋରେଟ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣାନ୍ସ ଯଦି ଷ୍ଟ୍ରଙ୍ଗ ଥିବ ତାହେଲେ ହଉଛି ବେନିଫିଟ ରହିବ ଆଙ୍କର ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡରଙ୍କର, ନହେଲେ ସେମାନେ ଡୁବିଯିବେ ସବୁ। ତେଣୁ ସେ ପାଇଁ ହଉଛି ସେ ଯୋଉ
ମତେ ଗୋଟେ କଥା କହିଲେ ଯେ ଖାଲି ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର ଡୁବିବେ ନା କମ୍ପାନୀ ବି ଡୁବିବ?
କମ୍ପାନୀ ତ ଯୋଉ ଡୁବିଯିବ କିନ୍ତୁ ବେଶୀ ମରିଯିବେ ନା ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର, ସବୁ ତାଙ୍କର ପଳେଇବ ପଇସା ପତ୍ର।
Okay. ପଇସା ପତ୍ର ସ୍କାମ ହେଲେ ପଳେଇବ, ଆଉ ବିନା ସ୍କାମ ରେ ବି ପଳେଇବ।
ସାର୍ ବିନା ସ୍କାମ ତ ଯିବ,
ମାନେ ମନେ
କିନ୍ତୁ
କରନ୍ତୁ ଲସ୍ କଲା କମ୍ପାନୀ, ବିନା ସ୍କାମ ରେ ବି ପଇସା ଯିବ ସେ ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର।
ନାଇଁ ସାର୍ ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର କାହିଁ ଯିବ କି?
କାହିଁ ଯିବନି?
ନାଇଁ
ଷ୍ଟେକ୍
ସାର୍
ହୋଲ୍ଡର
ସେ ତ
କାହାକୁ ଆପଣ ମିନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି?
ସାର୍ ତାର କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ
କାହାକୁ ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର ବୋଲି ଆପଣ ମିନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି?
ଯିଏ ସେ ହଉଛି ପଇସା ଲଗେଇଥିବ, ଯିଏ ଓନର, ଯିଏ ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର
ଖାଲି ସେ?
ସେ ହଉଛି ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର ମାନେ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟି ହବ, ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ହବ, କର୍ପୋରେଟ ଇଏ ହବ।
सो शेयर होल्डर भी स्टेक होल्डर, जे कस्टमर से भी स्टेक होल्डर, जे सप्लायर से भी स्टेक होल्डर, जे एम्प्लॉई से भी स्टेक होल्डर, समस्त स्टेक होल्डर।
ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର
ଯଦି 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 ଯଦି
those who are
ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ ଗୋଟେ ମିନିଟ
sir,
ଗୋଟେ
sir, sir.
ମିନିଟ ପ୍ଲିଜ। ଷ୍ଟେକ୍ ହୋଲ୍ଡର ପଇସା ଡୁବିଯିବ ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ନା, ତ ପଇସା ଡୁବିବ କାହାର? ସେୟାର ହୋଲ୍ଡର ଡୁବିବ। ସୋ ପ୍ରଥମ କଥା ହେଲା ଆମେ ଏଇଟା ବୁଝିବା ଆଗରୁ, ଟୁ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ଦିସ୍ ସବଜେକ୍ଟ we have to define what is corporate and what is governance. ହେଲା, then we will get into ଶତପଥୀ ବାବୁ ଯାହା କହିଲେ ତାର କିଛି କିଛି we will read. ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ହେଲା ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ମଡ୍ୟୁଲ 1 ରେ these are the points, ଏଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡା ମଡ୍ୟୁଲ 1 ରେ ଅଛି। କର୍ପୋରେଟ ଗଭର୍ନେନ୍ସ ର ଗୋଟେ ଓଭରଭ୍ୟୁ, ତାପରେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ପର୍ସପେକ୍ଟିଭ, କଣ ଇସ୍ୟୁ, କର୍ପୋରେଟ କନସେପ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଗଭର୍ନେନ୍ସ ଏଣ୍ଡ ଗୁଡ ଗଭର୍ନେନ୍ସ, importance of CG in corporate governance in retailing, overview of retail sector, तापर दीटा theory, agency and shareholder, stewardship, तापर shareholder versus stakeholder. stakeholder कथा हमें हवे होउतले सेथरे एथरे भी किछि पार्ट अछि। corporate कहले कोन बुझंत? anyone?
ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनी, कॉर्पोरेट माने गोटे बड़ कंपनी
एग्जांपल खाली ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनी हो, कोन एग्जांपल गोटे देले ना गोटे कोंतु?
रिलायंस इंडस्ट्री।
रिलायंस इंडस्ट्री हो, आउ एनीवन आउ किए कहबे किछि?
आईटी सेक्टर,
Infosys.
हाँ, IT sector is not a corporate. IT sector is a sector, industry sector.
Nalco.
हाँ, Nalco is corporate.
Tata Steel,
Tata Steel is बर्तन टाटा ग्रुप कहया ना टाटा स्टील कहया, कोटा कॉर्पोरेट?
so Tata Group,
टाटा ग्रुप,
टाटा स्टील भी कॉर्पोरेट। टाटा स्टील भी कॉर्पोरेट, because Tata Steel भी is a wide, माने it is located in various places, number of units, तारो माइंस, तारो ये सब अच्छे।
the Tata Power भी sir.
हाँ, टाटा पावर भी। Somebody is trying to record or what? I don't know. କାହିଁକିନା ମୋ ପାଖକୁ ଗୋଟେ କ'ଣ ମେସେଜ ଆସୁଛି ୟାକୁ ରେକର୍ଡ କରିବା କିଛି ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ PDF ଫାଇଲ ମିଳିଯାଉ ଅନୁପମ ସାହୁ you can switch off your camera there is no need to switch on the camera and ୟାକୁ ରେକର୍ଡ କରିବା କିଛି ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ because unnecessary ଗୋଟେ କ'ଣ ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଆସୁଛି ମୋ ପାଖକୁ we will I will give you the PDF once the module is completed so corporate ର ଗୋଟେ definition ଏଠି ଅଛି sorry it is an adjective and qualifies things it is it's a group of companies ହେଇପାରେ it's formed into an association and endowed more I don't know where ଗୋଟେ minute please give me some time शेयर होची तो देखा जाउची स्लाइड टा
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
it's an adjective and qualifies things relating to a large company so amar गोटे छोटिया प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी को आमे कॉर्पोरेट कहले हबो नाही इन द सेंस की माने जेमती there are companies which are even earning hundreds of crores as turnover their turnover is 100 crore or even 600 crore and still you cannot consider them as a corporate because corporate represents a conglomerate type of thing it's not only the turnover and all but the size the locations the distribution of responsibilities bibhinno jagare bibhinno mane there is some like downstream facility there is backward integration forward integration so when it becomes a big organization basically corporate mane hela seya तो आमे जो जेमती रिलायंस इंडस्ट्री कहले रिलायंस इंडस्ट्री कैन बी ए कॉन्ग्लोमरेट एंड ता अंडर रे भी रिफाइनरी जियो वाला गोटे हेई पारे आ गोटे कोन हेई पारे सो तार जो सब्सिडियरी अछंती से माने भी गोटे गोटे कॉर्पोरेट हेई पारे टाटा स्टील कैन बी ए कॉर्पोरेट टाटा रो ग्रुप रो टोटल नेला को सेटा आउरी बडो कॉर्पोरेट हेई जो सो बेसिकली एंड वन थिंग इज टाटा ग्रुप जदी कहवा हमें दैट विल नॉट क्वालिफाई एज अ कॉर्पोरेट इन द स्ट्रिक्ट सेंस because तांकर जो अन्य कंपनी अछंती they operate it little differently so group under रे जतिकी कंपनी अछंती they have their own policies their systems so Tata Steel can be a corporate Nalco is a corporate Nalco has 2-3 location रे operation अछि marketing office विभिन्न जगह रे अछि but the overall is a company which is guided by a board of directors and all that so first is size second is माने it's like a defined structure achi sethre there are systems in place how they are they are bigger in size so it's not that ki one person can control the whole thing gote company re malik je khali owner or investor is controlling everything sei type ro corporate re chalibo nahi and governance we all know that what is चलेवाटा ही governance how to run a system or a company is governance or even your house or your department your office even DDC रो course को जेमती govern करा होची that can also be that procedure also can be told as governance like when we have this class ताकू केमती operate करते ताकू केमती manage करते सेटा भी governance part हो so governance is a I'm not going by jaha lekhichi taku kohu nahi mu I am trying to speak out my mind and whenever you at the end of the session you will get this PDF so you can read and you also have received may have received something from your DDC they are also very elaborate we will understand that so in this topic as Mr. Satpathy rightly said when at the beginning that the shareholders will get affected whether he defined the shareholders exactly or the jo paisa dubi jo jaha kale seta gote aspect there are many aspects of a corporate governance gote company bond heigala gote jaga re suppose gote organization gote jaga re bond heigala that itself is a big issue that affects the whole thing in a very big way. Economy of the state gets affected. And the economy of the country gets affected. The locality gets affected. Social structure gets affected. So corporate governance implications or lack of corporate governance implications are very widespread and very far-reaching. So we need to study the all management students and even companies. They need to really look into the governance mechanism and subject of corporate governance. Otherwise, it will have disastrous result. So now I think you will be having some idea that what will be the course content. Jemti dekha like the prospective yes ସବୁ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି କିନ୍ତୁ basically ପଢିବା କ'ଣ? Are you comfortable with Oriya or I should continue only with English? All of you?
It will be better for mix, sir.
Mix. I am only worried that if some people cannot understand Oriya. All of you can 60 ଜଣ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଆପଣ ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ତ କହିବି ଇଂଲିଶରେ ବି କହିବି ଯେ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି there are other people they may find it difficult to understand Oriya. So I'm just or Hindi I can mix. So better hoga English Hindi. Or everybody is comfortable with in Oriya.
Sir, let us
Yes,
take
sir.
a opinion poll. So let us take a opinion poll.
କାହାଠୁ ନେବେ opinion poll?
ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ମିକ୍ସରେ କୁହନ୍ତୁ କିଛି ଅସୁବିଧା ନାହିଁ।
ହଁ ସେ ମିକ୍ସ କରି କୁହନ୍ତୁ
Please continue in Odia, sir.
ଯେମିତି କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଠିକ ଅଛି।
ଆପଣ ମାନେ ଯେତିକି ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଲୋକ ସବୁ ଓଡ଼ିଆ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ମୁଁ ସେଟା ବୁଝିପାରୁଛି। I think only
ସବୁଠାରୁ ଭଲ ହିନ୍ଦୀରେ କୁହନ୍ତୁ ସାର୍।
Adnan, he said ki you can continue with mix. So Baki I don't know. Okay. Basically, corporate governance is how to run a company successfully so that the company becomes sustainable and it's in the long run it succeeds in maintaining itself. It also corporate governance if done properly, then the desired results expected from that company. Why somebody forms a company? The owner wants some profit. There is no doubt about that. But all the stakeholders should get some benefit out of that. So that is how corporate governance will benefit each and everyone. And this course, what is there in the outline as I have shown you, it said we will understand how corporate governance became a subject of study. Then what are the issues of corporate governance? Then what is good governance and concept of good governance? Then I don't know, earlier this was not there in earlier corporate governance courses, but this time I am finding that the importance of corporate governance in retailing has been added and overview of a retail sector. Then there are two theories. There are many theories in corporate governance. How that governance operates, on what basis. And we only will read about two theories, agency theory and stewardship theory. Then the last one is a comparison of shareholder and stakeholder. Okay. So corporate governance is the system of rules, practices and processes by which a firm is directed and controlled. Who directs and controls?
The body, sir. The board of directors.
Or the management team. Board of directors is the topmost body. Then there are directors, managing directors, manager, executive directors, so many. So all of them are guided by these systems put in place by the board and practices which have been followed. Suppose there are no rules, written rules, sometimes practices which has been followed over a period of time can also become a unwritten rule. And that is the difference between rules and practices. Convention, many of you may be knowing that Indian Constitution is one of the largest and American Constitution is one of the smallest. But in spite of being a smallest constitution in America, the number of amendments to constitution has been very less. But in India, it has crossed 100 something. So that means in India, you need everything to be in written. Then only you can have, and conventions may not be followed very diligently. But in US, conventions are diligently followed. Only recently, the present governance is, the present system is making some, taking some deviations. But otherwise, practices can also be part of governance mechanism. And rules are there which are very clearly written that if you do this, this is the end result, or this is the thing. If you don't do, then what will be the action? And processes are, many of the processes, the way how the work has to be executed, SOPs, something like that. So corporate governance essentially involves balancing the interest of a company's many stakeholders, such as shareholder, senior management, executives, customers, suppliers, financiers, the government, and the community. I think to understand this, we must try to understand what are the interests of individual stakeholders, what the shareholders want. Shareholder, what they want from the company's operation or functioning.
Dividend.
Maximize dividend return. Or not only dividend, it is if the market value of their share, that is the main part. Because see, 10 rupees becoming 100 rupees gives you more result than if a dividend is declared at even 100 rupee per share, then you may not get much money. So if the valuation of your share goes up, the shareholders are very much benefited. Then senior management and other executives, what they want? Maximum salary, maximum compensation. In companies, in big companies, the board of directors, the MD, they really get a hefty amount of money. And they earn in big numbers. And we all know that. So that is their interest. And in many of the bigger corporates, the MD and the directors, the full-time directors, they get a percentage of what profit and all they are making. So they earn in crores. So that is their interest. If it is run properly, they will earn a good amount. And customers, they will have good product at the best price. Then suppliers, they will also get the best bargain for their services. Financiers, they will get the refund and return of money efficiently and properly. Government will get taxes, and community will get benefited by various services the company wants to, when a company gives to the community. So corporate governance provides the framework for attaining a company's objective. It practically covers every sphere of management, from action plans and internal controls to performance measurement and corporate disclosure. So corporate governance is a very wide subject. Communicating a firm's corporate governance is a key component of community and investors' relations. On Apple's the company Apple Incorporations investors relations side, for example, the film outlines its corporate leadership, its executive team, its board of directors, and its corporate governance, including its committee charters and governance documents such as bylaws, stock ownership guidelines, and articles of incorporations. In India, it is very difficult to find MOA and AOA on the website of a company, because in India we are still somewhat behind in corporate governance. Here, companies camouflage, they try to hide, and they try to find out this way or that way to hide information and get away with that. But in US, Germany, Japan, UK, there are information available freely, and that is how their governance is very strong. For many shareholders, it is not enough for a company to merely be profitable. It also needs to demonstrate good corporate citizenships through, through environmental awareness, ethical behavior, and sound corporate governance practices. How is environmental awareness or environmental compliance can be considered as part of corporate governance? I'm a stakeholder, the number of stakeholders we have seen, if suppose the company doesn't follow the environmental laws strictly, then who will bear the brunt maximum? Kahar sabutru besi loss habo?
Community, society.
Yes. So, and in India, many of the companies, I'm just very recent experience, discussion with one of dental doctor. He was, he is a team of oral cancer awareness. He visited IGIT Sarang on a camp, and then he went to Tata Steel Meramandali. He has not gone to Tata Steel Meramandali earlier, not even that area. So his first reaction was, sir, say area pura kola. That is what Bhushan has done to that area. And Tata still has not been able to manage it properly. And it is not easy to manage. I understand that. But still, something can be done. Sam Metallics, I don't know how many of you are aware, Sam Metallics bond Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, order reopen But I had been to that plant and, it's horrible management from environmental and other point of view. So, I don't know if you see the annual lecture of Apple, every year when they launch new product, they have an annual lecture. Their first emphasis on the lecture part, first part, is how they are responsible towards the society and carbon footprint reduction and etc. and etc. They don't start with that we have made this much of profit and doing this. No. What they have done for benefit of the society and how they are trying to reduce the carbon footprint of each Apple product. That is what they emphasize on their annual statements. And that is how Apple shares are very valuable shares. So, though in India, maybe the most polluted company may have the best share. It's a different story, but still demonstrating good corporate citizenship also means demonstrating your concern for environment. Now, OECD, this part is there in your course, I think, in the study material when it is given. Now, when we are going to understand what is corporate governance, how many of you are aware about International Standard Organization, ISO? कौन करती से ISO कौन करे? What they do?
Standard operating जो हमारा ISO रहती है, International Standard Operating Procedure. Standard ସେଠାରେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର जो प्रोसेस हम जो जार प्रोडक्ट अछि आ क्वालिटी सेगुडा केते मेंटेन अछि सेही अनुसार से स्टैंडर्ड सर्टिफिकेट देंते ISO 2015
ISO गोटे प्रोसीजर डिफाइन करिछि. There are third party agencies who check for every organization who wants to get a certification from ISO. ସେମାନେ ଚେକ୍ କରିବେ. ଚେକ୍ କଲା ପରେ ଯଦି ଆପଣ ସେ ପ୍ରୋସିଜର ଗୁଡା ଫଲୋ କରୁଥିବେ ତାହେଲେ ଆପଣ ସାର୍ଟିଫିକେସନ ପାଇବେ. Then, so ସେଇଟା ଯେମିତି ଗୋଟେ କଥା, there are certain, when you get a ISO certification on a particular area, that indicates that you are complying to the process of certification to a large extent. There may be small deviations, but you are somehow compliant. But when you talk of corporate governance, there cannot be such there has to be some guideline. Otherwise, you know how you are going to evaluate, because the market, the public, and all of them need some basis of evaluation. We have one guideline is the Companies Act in India. It elaborately tries to lay down the procedures of governance. And if you don't follow those things, then there are penalties and other things written in that. That is the rule part. But you know, only complying to the Companies Act or the provisions of that act doesn't lend you to be a very good corporate governed company. So international bodies like OECD, they have given an outline, which is beyond law, but takes care of most of the internationally accepted norms. So this provides a framework for companies to follow. It doesn't really give a rule, whereas the Company Act 2013 and its amendment subsequently gives rules, and you have to follow in dots. You have to follow it in black and white. Whatever is written, you have to follow that. If you deviate, then there will be issues. But OECD is not. It's only a framework. You are free to find your own ways to meet that requirement. So it's basically a guideline, because OECD cannot implement, it can only guide. And as per OECD, corporate governance is defined or mentioned as the purpose of corporate governance is to help build an environment of trust, transparency, and accountability necessary for fostering long-term investment, financial stability, and business integrity, thereby supporting stronger growth, and more inclusive societies. If you focus on these words like trust, transparency, accountability, long-term investment, financial stability, business integrity, and inclusive societies, you will arrive at a very broad or a very clear guideline for putting your corporate governance in your company, system in your company. Now let us try to understand these words. Trust mane kaun? What trust means?
Trust one belief.
How to get one if I don't know. How kichi any other definition? खाली आपण विश्वास करंती सेटा trust? Na, trust is something more than belief.
Trust is more than
ମାନେ
belief.
ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା ୟୁଜ କରିବେ, ଧର if you use that product or services, you feel that is satisfactory, then they trust come.
ଗୋଟେ example କିଛି ଦେଇ ପାରିବେ?
ତାର ବ୍ରାଣ୍ଡ ଭ୍ୟାଲୁ
ଧର ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ଟୁଥପେଷ୍ଟ ୟୁଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ସେ ଟୁଥପେଷ୍ଟ ଯଦି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଭଲ ଲାଗିଲା, ସେ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟର ସେଇ କମ୍ପାନୀର ଟୁଥପେଷ୍ଟ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଭଲ ଲାଗିଲା, ତ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରଷ୍ଟ ଫିଲ୍ ହେଲା ଯେ ମୁଁ ଏଇ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ୟୁଜ କଲେ ବେନିଫିଟ ଫର ମି, ତେଣୁ ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ରଷ୍ଟ ଫିଲ୍ ହେଇଗଲା, ଡେଫିନେଟଲି ଗୋ ଟୁ ଅନ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ଓନଲି। ସେମିତି ସେ କମ୍ପାନୀର ଯଦି ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ଆଣ୍ଡ ସର୍ଭିସେସ ଯଦି କଷ୍ଟମର କୁ ଭଲ ଲାଗୁଛି, ତେବେ ସେ ଡେଫିନେଟଲି ସେ ଟ୍ରଷ୍ଟ ବିଲ୍ଡ ହେଲେ ତାର ଗ୍ରୋଥ ହବ।
ହଉ, ଶିବାନନ୍ଦ ପାଢୀ କଣ କହିବାକୁ କହୁଥିଲେ?
ସାର୍ ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ଲୋନ ଦେଇଛି, ସେ କମ୍ପାନୀ ଉପରେ ଟ୍ରଷ୍ଟ ଅଛି କି ସେ ଏଗେନ୍ ରିପେମେଣ୍ଟ କରିଦବ?
ବୁଝିପାରିଲିନି।
ସପୋଜ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ଲୋନ ଦେଇଛି କମ୍ପାନୀ,
ହଁ,
ହେଲେ ତାର ଭରସା ଅଛି କି ସେ ଏଗେନ୍ ରିପେମେଣ୍ଟ କରିଦବ?
ମାନେ
Trust
ଯାହାକୁ ଲୋନ ଦେଇଛି ସେ ରିପେମେଣ୍ଟ କରିଦବ ବୋଲି ଭରସା ଅଛି ବୋଲି ଲୋନ ଦେଇଛି, ଏହା କହୁଛନ୍ତି?
ହଁ ହଁ।
ମାନେ suppose HDFC is giving you a housing loan, they have a confidence or trust in your ability to return, ସେଇଆ କହୁଛନ୍ତି?
ହଁ ହଁ ସାର୍।
ହଉ, ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ବିଲିଭ ନା ବିଶ୍ୱାସ, କୋଉଟାକୁ ଆମେ ଟ୍ରଷ୍ଟ କହିଲେ ଆମେ କୋଉଟାକୁ ୟୁଜ କରିପାରିବା? if I say believe or ବିଶ୍ୱାସ?
Sir, it is a belief that somebody is good, sincere and honest. ଭାବିବେ ଯେ you not to do harm.
ହଉ, Very good, Satpati Babu. Prathama kotha hala, if you believe somebody is sincere and honest, but whether he is really sincere and honest, you believe he is okay, but he is not okay, then your trust is broken. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So only when the trust is proven correct, you have a trust. You believe, you believe in somebody or you believe in something. And when in action that really results in, when you see that it is happening, then only it is trust. Now, a 1 plus CPS 2723 again, ତା ନାଁଟା କ'ଣ ଜଣା ପଡୁନି ସେ ଉତ୍ତର ଦଉଛନ୍ତି ଯାହାର ଫୋନଟା ଅଛି CPS 2723 ଆପଣ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ଆଗରୁ ଆନ୍ସର କରୁଥିଲେ ବିଲିଭ କଥା 1 plus phone वाला किए ତାଙ୍କ ନାଁଟା ନାହିଁ. There are 2-3 numbers like that. Good HP, good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. तापर किए 1 plus CPS 2723. So I cannot address them. I don't know who are they. ठीक है. Trust is you develop over a period of time when the company delivers on what it promises. এটা clear ହେଇ ପାରୁଛି? Are you convinced in what I am saying?
Yes, sir.
ଆପଣ ନାଁଟା କ'ଣ? Your
Sir, Ashutosh Pandey, sir, Ashutosh Pandey.
ଆପଣ କାଲିଠୁ ସେ ଯୋଉ ଫୋନ ଜାଗାରେ କେମିତି ଜାଣିନି ମୁଁ କେମିତି କରିବେ କିନ୍ତୁ ଯଦି ଆଶୁତୋଷ
ହଁ
ପଣ୍ଡା
ନା
ଲେଖିବେ
କରିଦେବି sir ଏଇ କ୍ଲାସ
ହଁ
ପରେ କରିଦେବି
ହଉ କରିଦେବେ କାହିଁକି ନହେଲେ ଜାଣି ହଉ.
ହଁ
Okay. So the when somebody delivers on a promise, then the trust develops. If you have a belief, it may be proven wrong or proven correct. But if the belief is sustained over a period of time, then you develop trust. So trust is not a one-time affair. It's a consistent development, consistently meeting the promised action. Like a trusted lieutenant will call the company one kare. A person who once given a job will deliver positively, and he has proven this over a period of time. Then only he is a trusted person. So trust is a very deep meaning word. So it is not only believe, it is more than that. Then transparency. This is one of the biggest problem in India. We don't have transparency anywhere. And mostly we don't have. And that is why corporate governance fails. RTI, right to information ଆସିଥିଲା ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ to
ନମସ୍କାର ସାର୍.
ନମସ୍କାର.
ଡିସିପି ଅଫିସରେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର କିଏ ଚିହ୍ନା ଅଛନ୍ତି କି ସାର୍?
ବୁଝିଗଲାନି.
ଉତ୍ତରାର ସାର୍ ଗୋଟେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଟେ ରଖି ଖେଳୁଥିଲା ଆମ ଇଏରେ ଆଜି ଏବେ ମୋବାଇଲ ଟା ଛାଡିକି ପଳେଇ ଆସିଛି କି ସେ ନେଇଯାଇଛି ତ ସେ ସିମ୍ କାର୍ଡ ଦେଇଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସେଟା
ହଉ ଭଞ୍ଜ ବାବୁ ଆମେ ଏଇଟା this is not the forum to discuss. ଆପଣଙ୍କ କଥା ମୁଁ ବୁଝିପାରୁଛି there is a issue but I don't know. I have no.
ସରି ସାର୍ ମୁଁ ମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରିଦଉଛି.
Okay. So transparency ମାନେ କ'ଣ?
ट्रांसपेरेंसी माने आपण जहा कहिबे that the product or service का सेटा सेही गुडा कंटेंट गुडा से गुडा इफेक्ट हवा दरकार आफ्टर प्रोडक्ट या सर्विस सेटा थिबा दरकार नले ट्रांसपेरेंसी आसीबनी.
So all the things are done ethically. Means transparency.
All the things are done
ethically.
ବୁଝିଗଲାନି.
All the things are done ethically.
Ethically.
Sir.
Ethically foolproof.
I was giving an example that the Right to Information Act was brought in India by Mr. Kejriwal. He was an activist at that point of time to increase transparency in Indian governance. And nowadays, every aspect of that RTI is being compromised to minimize transparency. Now in India, unfortunately, the RTI Acts, the provisions of RTI were also misused by many. बहुत ऑफिस रे लोक खाली आरटीआई रो रिप्लाई करी थकी गले काना किछि जेमति हमर पीएल कोन पीआईएल पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन कोर्ट माने वर्तमान बेले बेले सेटा भी मना कर दुजन काइना किछि लोक अछंती से माने खाली पीआईएल ही करंती दैट हैबिचुअल पीपल सो मिसयूज ऑफ information or rights. But transparency is, see, transparency doesn't ensure success always. Means what I am saying is, suppose something is promised in the service or in the product or in some promise has been given by a corporate, and for some reason or other the promise is not fulfilled, or there is a failure on part of the corporate to meet that promise. Then if there is transparency, then the corporate will very openly and very clearly come out with statements and measures or whatever, will acknowledge that there is a failure, there is a mistake or whatever wrong, and they will try to correct it openly. No hush things. Like in India, every probe or every commission which has been set up in India for many issues have never been done in a most transparent way. सबुरे किछि ना किछि आमे लुचेबाकू चेष्टा करूछ. And why it is done? If there are vested interests who doesn't want to come out clean. So transparency, if there is transparency in a corporation or corporate, then there is every possibility that it will be run properly. The governance will be good. The moment people are having vested interest in the operation of a company, then they will try to camouflage, hustle and give everything. Now, one example can be, in India, you have a labor law, you have many environmental laws and all that, and every company, depending on the type of operation they do, they have to follow those laws and they have to give a compliance report. And most of us, I don't know how many of you are working in industries. Most of the industries I have gone through, I have seen that people do try to manipulate, fuzz, and give wrong information or camouflage what they are trying to tell, so that they meet the requirement, but yet they also do the thing they want to do in their own way. So that is lack of transparency. आमर गोटे सेइंग अछि जे काय मन वाक्य माने कथारे व्यवहार रे मन रे सब प्रकार गोटे प्रकार काम भी जेमती मन रे भी भावना सेया आउ शरीर भी सेया रिफ्लेक्ट करूथवा कथा माने it should be, there should be unanimity in the whole thing. When there is confusion, then there is when there is lack of transparency, there will be confusion and development of mistrust. Trust will be hampered. Once there is lack of transparency, everybody will be in doubt. So once there is doubt, there is no trust. Now we can take an example of a recruitment process. There is an advertisement given, qualification is mentioned, and when they try to select, then there is a problem. They don't want to come out with the basic facts. Amar jetale ebe jemti election re jemti declaration hoye, affidavit hoye, pore bahut case hoye that luchele emti kole, but I have not seen anywhere, only in except one or two cases where the results have been quashed. Otherwise, they somehow manage to get out of the system. So lack of transparency is a very dangerous thing for corporate governance. Accountability. What is accountability?
Responsibility.
ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟେବିଲିଟି ନିଜେ ସ୍ୱୀକାର କରିବା ସାର୍, ଯେକୌଣସି ଭୁଲ ହଉ ବି କୌଣସି ଜିନିଷ ହେଇଥିବ ସେଟା ନିଜେ ସ୍ୱୀକାର କରିବା ଦରକାର. ରେସ୍ପନ୍ସିବଲ୍.
Actually, one who is responsible for that action is accountable for the result. Suppose something goes wrong, then the person who is responsible should be accountable. He should be ready to take the responsibility. So, सेटा भी any, and I don't know how many of you are will agree with me, but in India this is another area. We always see that the person who is accountable is never taken to task, and the person who is really not accountable is somehow punished to manage the whole situation. Lowest rank जे किरानी थियो बा जा थियो मुको नहीं जे सब बेले lowest वाला responsible no, I am not saying that, but you know the in a hierarchy the topmost person cannot just say that the lowest person is responsible. I have just signed the papers. If you have signed the papers, you are equally responsible. In the India रे माने we don't know where the central government or the state governments jamar jo accountability achi seta ko jayare kaha upar ko jibo we cannot do, we don't know simply because ebe chalichi West Bengal election and the topic is Ghuspaid in people coming from Bangladesh. Now state people say that this is the responsibility of the home ministry, and the home ministry says that state government is not giving land, so how will erect boundary go? So each program जो shifting of responsibility is, it indicates that there is no accountability. Nobody is accountable. हमें खाली कथा कहूचे, and we really do not know what we are doing. Similarly, Donald Trump रो जो Iranian war it was really the way he was giving statements and all didn't really establish accountability in the best way. अन्य समय रे heitle बोधे the president would have resigned by now. So accountability is taking ownership of what you have done. If when you claim the credit for success, you should also be equally responsible for failures. That is how accountability comes. So trust, transparency, and accountability will ensure that whatever steps company is taking is in the best interest of the stakeholders. And if there is a failure, there is a problem, there is a way to correct it. Because everything is done transparently. So you know where the mistake has taken place. And there is a possibility of correcting and again moving ahead. If you are not addressing the issue directly, head on, there is no way that you can come over a failure and make it into success. So there is really a challenge, big challenge in these three terms. Then long-term investment. Any investment generally or investment in a company should be on a long-term basis, or the company should run for a bigger period of time, then only the investment made into that will be justified. Then financial stability. Earning a profit this year, going into loss next year, again earning a small profit, then again use profit. So this type of things doesn't indicate financial stability. Financial stability indicates a steady income on a longer period of time. And then next word is integrity, business integrity. How many of you can define the word integrity? A person of integrity will be what?
Honest.
Honest. What else?
Sir, trustworthy.
The trust, the word trust also goes well with the word integrity, because otherwise there is what else? How come I pare?
Righteousness.
Right, yes. I'm खाली गोटे aspect to धरुचे. How? What else?
Not engage in unethical activity.
That is again honesty or righteousness or whatever. Integrity, you know, a person of integrity is predictable. A person of high integrity is like a person whom you can depend on. He is not unpredictable. He will not change because the situation has changed. A person of integrity will do the same thing over and over again when what I am saying is there is a action to be taken on a when the parameters are there, he will take the same action every time. Now, for example, suppose he is a HR manager in a company, and there are 2-3 cases. A person of integrity will take the correct decision each time. ତା ଭାଇ ଥିଲା ବୋଲି ବା ତା ଜଣାଶୁଣା ଲୋକ ଥିଲା ବୋଲି ସେ ମ୍ୟାନିପୁଲେଟ୍ କଲା, then he is not a person of integrity. ଯୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ନିଜ ଲୋକ ନାହାନ୍ତି ସେ ଜାଗାରେ ଆକ୍ସନ ନେଇ ହଉଛି, ଆଉ ଯୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ନିଜ ଲୋକ ଅଛନ୍ତି ସେ ଜାଗାରେ ରୁଲ ବେଣ୍ଡ କରାହଉଛି, then it is not a proper action, ଗୋଟେ integrity ବାଲା person ର ସେଟା କାମ ନୁହଁ. Similarly, when you are buying something, you are floating a tender, you are giving a guideline. If you start compromising to benefit someone, then it is a lack of integrity. So a consistent relevance of things on a particular issue defines integrity. He can be trusted because he has the same approach to each issue. The basic things are correct. He is not, he doesn't vacillate. ଯେମିତି ଆମର politicians in India, they lack integrity. ଆଜି ଜଣଙ୍କ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଥିବେ, କାଲି ଆଉ ଜଣଙ୍କ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଥିବେ, and ଇଆଡେ ୟାକୁ ଗାଳି ଦେଇକି ସେଠି ଯାଇକି ପୁଣି ତାକୁ ଗାଳି ଦଉଥିବେ. So this is where the integrity comes into. ମୁଁ କାଲି ଏମିତି ଯୋଉ ରାଘବ ଚଡ୍ଡା କେସରେ I was seeing, and some days ago when he was in AAP, he was criticizing BJP. Now he has started criticizing Kejriwal. So I'm not getting into the issue whether it was right or wrong. It was right or wrong for Raghav Chadha to change or not change. I'm not getting into that. But what I'm saying is, this is what indicates that there is lack of integrity. ଯେମିତି ଆଗରୁ ଗୋଟେ ଆମର ଥିଲା ଯୋଉ ରାମାୟଣ ଫାମାୟଣରେ ଆସୁଥିଲା, ରଘୁକୁଲ ରୀତି ସଦା ଚଲି ଆଇ ପ୍ରାଣ ଯାଏ ପର ବଚନ ନ ଯାଏ. ତ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରେ ଇଣ୍ଟିଗ୍ରିଟି ଅଛି. ଯଦି କଥାଟାକୁ ରଖିବାକୁ ଯୋଉ ସାହସ ଅଛି, then there is a person of integrity. So to be relevant, it is essential that corporate governance rules and regulations are adopted to the reality in which they will be implemented. Now, when we get into the further modules of your course, you will see that the corporate governance model in various countries differ in small areas because they differ. They have to adapt to the country's requirement, to the societal requirement. In a developed country, the requirement will be different. In an underdeveloped country, the requirement of corporate governance will be different. So it should be able to adapt. And OECD guideline, that is why are very broad guidelines, and industry specific, depending on their environment, have to adopt them. So basically, corporate governance, how it started. Initially, every company or big conglomerates all over the world, in India or even outside, they were operating on their own. There was really no subject of corporate governance. Companies have developed their own system and rules and things to operate themselves. But because of some reason or other, companies became failing. Some companies failed, and that affected the economy in a big way. Or the financial market faced some scams. Somebody was telling about scam. So there are scams in worldwide, and that is how some company failed. And then the government, then the industry fraternity, they took that opportunity to came up with the subject of corporate governance. So global movement for better corporate governance progress in fits and starts from mid-1980s to 97. So it's a very recent subject. It's not a very old subject. Because industries have been there from 18th century also. So, but corporate governance per se came up in the 20th century or 20th century. So Cadbury Committee report in the United Kingdom, 1992, the recommendations of National Association of Corporate Directors of US, 1995. These are the starting point of corporate governance in the world. The first major stimulus for corporate governance from reform came from Southeast and East Asian crisis of 97-98. Ita actually Thailand re, South Korea re, Taiwan re, in some of the Southeast Asian countries and East Asian countries, there were some big failures. Corporates failed. More money company na, but South Korea re Samsung or some big company, tankar chairman and the MD, they were punished. They made a lot of financial irregularities and the companies failed. There are many. US re bhi bahut heichi. Gote Enron boli gote astila India ku, Enron Corporation. It also failed. Then there are banks which failed in the 80s. So, Southeast Asia failure jetale hela, then all the world leaders and economic leaders, they started thinking about corporate governance. The main reasons behind above failures were found to be in the transaction between companies, bank, financial institution, and capital market. Ama India re Nirav Modi, Harshad Mehta, all scams led to stringent rules from 90s onwards. And capital market is share market. There, Harshad Mehta scam is one of the biggest scams. During our younger days, many people vanished from the scene because of Harshad Mehta scam. Many CEOs and MDs of government companies, they either they committed suicide, or some of them resigned or removed and all that. So many issues came up. Then banks are collapse about finance. That also is a reason behind the reforms or subject of corporate governance. The other areas of concerns are corporate laws, bankruptcy procedure and practices, the structure of ownership and crony capitalism, sharp stock market fluctuations, poor board of directors showing scant regard to fiduciary responsibilities. Fiduciary is financial. Poor disclosures and transparency, inadequate accounting, auditing standards. Satyam Computers, anyone of you is aware? आपण मानक भितरु काहाकू सत्यम कंप्यूटर विषय किछि अछि मन आइडिया अछि मन अछि?
Yes, sir. ସେଟା scam ହେଇଥିଲା ଜାଣିକି କଣ exactly
ତ ସତମ କମ୍ପ୍ୟୁଟର ସେ କଣ କରିଛି, ସେ ତାର ଟଙ୍କା ଗୁଡା ରଖିଥିଲା ପଞ୍ଜାବ ନ୍ୟାସନାଲ ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କରେ ରଖିଦେଇକି ତାର ସେ ହାଉସିଂ ବୋର୍ଡରେ ଗୋଟେ ହାଉସିଂ ବୋର୍ଡ କଲା, ସେଥିରେ ସେ ଟଙ୍କାଟାକୁ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଫର କରିଦେଲା।
ये 1 2 3 4 5 का नंबर कार आईडी आपण भी चेंज करिवे। ए प्रथमे जे आंसर दବାକୁ आरंभ कले सत्यम विषय रे ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ପଚାରୁଛି 1 2 3 4 5 and HP, I don't know. Oh, Satyam scam re kon ala? Ramlinga Raju, he was the owner of Satyam Computers. Satyam Computer was making good business. It was number 2 after Infosys. And Ramlinga Raju floated a construction company called Mitas, which was, if you write Satyam in the reverse way, the name Mitas will come. And Mitas got a very big order, the order of that flyover from Hyderabad town to airport. And what Ramlinga Raju did is, he manipulated the accounts of Satyam Computers with the help of auditors, 2 auditors of PricewaterhouseCoopers, and to siphon the money to Mitas. In that case, what has happened in that case is, they were showing fixed deposits in banks which were non-existent, and the auditors never examined, they only certified. So there, the accounts, books of accounts were showing a lot of cash surplus, but there were no cash. All that cash went to Mitas. So this is one example how the management or the owner and they can manipulate a company, and the company will ultimately die. Satyam has gone into non-existence now. Tech Mahindra has taken over because of government interference and all that. But many of the Satyam employees, many of the shareholders of Satyam, they have faced huge loss. Okay. So this is one example, and there are many examples in India. Another example can be Nirav Modi case, where with the help of the bank official, Punjab National Bank branch person, he manipulated some hundreds, thousands of crores of money from the bank. And this, Odisha re bhi bahut prakar scam, chit fund, and many of the things are there. But unfortunately, the lack of transparency in most of the cases, we really see no result. Vijay Mallya case, that is another example. And Vijay Mallya is also a very politically sensitive case. Vijay Mallya says that I am ready to pay, but the government doesn't want to take the things. Nirav Modi case, you never know what is happening. Lalit Modi case, you never know what is happening. And but that is where there is lack of governance. Okay, so basically, corporate governance started to become a serious subject of study or follow from the point when the company started failing financially and because of corrupt practices. Okay, so many of the points are listed here. So then there were regulations, there were rules, there are guidelines, there are institutions set up by the parliament or the government in countries to look after the day-to-day operations of companies to ensure that the fault is identified before a company fails. In Odisha, Bhushan Steel and Bhushan Power and Steel, two big companies by Singhal family. They became NPA of the amount of money was in thousands, lakhs of crores. Now, how did it happen? Everybody knew that the company is doing something, but still it was allowed and banks made loss. And this is where the lack of governance comes into picture. India's experience is different from Asian scheme of things. Unlike Southeast Asia and East Asia, there was no national or region-wide macroeconomic and financial collapse leading to corporate governance. India nationwide was state-wise kichi hai nahi, but there are some scams, which like 92 stock market scam, and then the government stepped in and started setting things right. Since April 2001, listed companies in India are required to follow some of the most stringent guidelines for corporate governance throughout Asia, and which rank among some of the best in the world. जो listing requirement है कौन? Which is a listed company? कोटाକୁ ଆମେ listed company ବୋଲି କହିପାରିବା?
सर जोड़ा 1 ରୁ 100 ଭିତରେ ଥିବେ ସେଟା listed company.
କଣ କହିଲେ?
1 ରୁ 100 ଭିତରେ ଥିଲେ ସେଟା listed company.
Company is listed in SEBI.
नहीं, stock exchange, any of the stock exchange.
stock exchange जोड़ा
listed ହେଇଥିବେ ତାପରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଇଏ ଥିବ share କେତେ ଥିବ ସେଟା
1 ରୁ 100 ନୁହଁ, 1 ରୁ 1000 କଣ 1 ରୁ 1 lakh ହେଲେ ବି ସେଟା issue ନୁହଁ. Issue ହେଲା ଯେ a company whose share are listed or traded on a stock exchange, a recognized stock exchange, ସେଇଟା ହେଲା listed. So listed company ହେଲେ ତାହେଲେ ବହୁତ strong guidelines. ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଏବେ ସବୁ ମଝିରେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡା IPO ବାହାରୁଥିଲା, initial public offering, ତ ସେଇଟା ସବୁ listed company ପାଇଁ ହୁଏ. Okay. Hello. ଏବେ ଆଜି 8ଟା ବାଜିଲା, so I think we will stop here because some ଆଉ କିଏ ସାର୍ ବୋଧେ ନେବେ. Other sir will take, I think. I don't know. So there are 10 classes and there are 4 modules. So around 2 more classes per each module habo. So we will be running through the things. And at the end of the module, I will share with Rashmi madam the PDF file. She will share with your group. And I don't know if they end up by the time we are reaching the end, if we have time, we can devote 1 class for discussion if you want. Otherwise, we can continue with only going through the module. So because this was the first module, I wanted to invest some time on definition part. And from next time onwards, we'll try to finish as quickly as possible because the time limit is very less. Okay. So thank you. See you
Okay, sir.
tomorrow. And my
Thank you,
request
sir.
to some of
Thank you,
you
sir.
will be
Thank you, sir.
my request to some of you will be to put your name. Like जनकर ना D अछि से भी एबे किछि कहले से D टाକୁ ମୁଁ कोन एड्रेस करिवि. D is a very dangerous. D company कहले it becomes very dangerous. So please change your names. So okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Good night.
Very good evening to all of you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Okay. ये ब्रेक दरकार कि आपन साइंस साइंस सरला तो
It is okay, sir.
so whatever we have discussed in the last class, do you have any question on that? Last class रे हम जहाँ discussion करथिले कार किछि पचारियर अछि कि about the subject of managerial economics or nature and scope of managerial economics. बुझी जाइथिले तो सब्जेक्ट ता कोन
Again, sir.
ଟିକେ ସାର୍ ରିକଲ୍ ଟିକେ ଓଭରାଲ ଟିକେ କହିଦେବେ କି?
ओवरऑल कह जाए जे जो सब्जेक्ट हमें पढुचे दिस सब्जेक्ट इज बेसिकली a combination of two different streams. What is the management, what is the economics. So this subject basically I देखुछु it is nothing but the application of economic theories, economic concepts, economic principles in managerial decision making. You know, as a manager of any organization, when we are in a position to take some decisions for the organization as a whole, we need to take the help of managerial economics. For that reason, it is important on our part as a student of management, as an employee of any organization, that we must have to be familiar with the concepts of managerial economics. କାରଣ ଏଇଟା ଆମକୁ decision making ରେ help କରିବ। ତେଣୁ concept ଗୁଡା କ'ଣ ଆମେ ଜାଣିଥିଲେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ decision ନେବା ସେଇ concept କୁ use କରିକି decisions ଆମେ କିଛି fruitfully ନେଇପାରିବା ଯୋଉଟା କି organization ର overall benefit ପାଇଁ ହେଇଥିବ। So in that context ଆମେ ଦେଖିଥିଲେ ଯେ ଆର nature ଟା କ'ଣ while discussing about the nature ଆମେ ପଢିଥିଲେ ଯେ basically ଏଇଟା ଦିଟା different part ରେ divide ହେଇଛି ଗୋଟାକୁ ଆମେ micro economics ଗୋଟାକୁ macro economics କହୁଛେ। तो decision making ରେ generally ଆମେ use करू micro economic concept गुड़ाକୁ but ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ analyze କରିବା it can also have some bigger repercussions or bigger impact on the society as a whole or on an aggregate basis. ତେଣୁ combination of micro and macro economics ରହିବ managerial economics ରେ तो किसी माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक कॉन्सेप्ट और किसी मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक कॉन्सेप्ट को नेकी हमर डिसीजंस गुडा बेसिकली हमें डिसाइड करू तेणु जेहेतु डिसीजन मेकिंग ता गोटे इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ एनी बिजनेस बिकॉज जेतले भी हम बिजनेस करूछु किबा कोनोसी बिजनेस संगे एसोसिएटेड होछु वी डेफिनेटली हैव टू टेक सम डिसीजंस फॉर द ओवरऑल growth of the organization, for the overall growth of the business. So for that matter, a subject or importance टा बहुत रही in the study of business or in the study of management. तापर हम देखले कोड कोड दा यूज करि परिबा स्कोप रे हम कहले जला हम डिमांड एनालिसिस करूचे प्रोडक्शन एनालिसिस करूचे कॉस्ट एनालिसिस करूचे मार्केट स्ट्रक्चर ऊपर स्टडी करूचे प्राइसिंग रिलेटेड किसी डिसीजन नवा को चाहूचे कैपिटल टा को केमति मैनेज करिवा ता ऊपर जदी डिसीजन किसी नवा को चाहूचे किंबा प्रॉफिट टाକୁ କେମିତି ମ୍ୟାନେଜ କରିବା ତା ଉପରେ डिसीजन ନେବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି. So for all those decisions we generally take into consideration the concepts of managerial economics. ଏତିକି ଆମେ ପଢିଥିଲେ overall. So in today's class we first of all go through the decision making process, how the managerial economics is being used for decision making purposes. ଆଉ କୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର decision ଆମେ ନଉ. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the organization को हमें consideration को नौचे, and we are talking about the decisions to be taken at the organization level. So decisions normally are being segregated into two different areas. One type of decision is related to the internal affairs, and the other type of decision is related to the external affairs. So we need to know what internal affairs decisions are all about and what external affairs decisions are all about. You know that every business is being affected by certain environmental factors. And when we talk about the environmental factors, all the factors, environmental factors can be categorized under two heads. One is your internal environmental factors. It includes those factors which are generally under the purview of the organization. And there are certain external environmental factors which include those factors which are not under the purview of the organization. But the organization or the operation of the organization is affected by those factors. So, taking into consideration those factors which are under the purview or under the control of the organization, what sort of decisions we can take, and accordingly, how we can use the managerial economic concepts. Those will be considered as decisions related to internal affairs. So internal affairs basically talks about the internal environment, and the internal environment, as I already pointed out, involves those factors or those elements on which the organization has some control over. The factors might include the financial factors, the marketing factor, the HR factor, the production factor, because these are under the control of the organization. Whoever is at the helm of affairs of decision making, that person or that group of persons will have to take the decision for the company as a whole. So ଏଠି ଗୋଟିଏ company ପାଇଁ ଆମେ decision ନଉଛେ, ତେଣୁ ସେ କମ୍ପାନୀର ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର୍ସ ରହୁ କିମ୍ବା ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର ରହୁ ମାର୍କେଟ ଏଇ ସବୁ ଉପରେ କମ୍ପାନୀର କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ ରହିଛି. ତେଣୁ ଯଦି କିଛି ଡିସିସନ ଆମେ ନଉଛେ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଟୁ ଦ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର୍ସ of the organization or related to the marketing factors of the organization or related to the HR factor, which includes the human resources as well as the employees, or production related decision note, then we are supposed to take decisions related to internal affairs. So sejagare we need to take into consideration the major economic concepts. The production ଉପରେ ଯଦି ଆମର କିଛି idea ନଥିବ ତାହେଲେ production related decision ନେଲା ବେଳକୁ it will be much more difficult on our part. So in that context we need to be familiar about the concept of input, the concept of output, the concept of technology, the concept of combination of inputs, optimum combination of inputs. एटा जब जान न थे तले production related decision नहीं परिवार नहीं. Financial decision में सेमती we need to know about the capital structure of our company. We need to know about the cost of capital. जो capital हमें borrow करूचे ता में कितने खर्च करियो. ये ऊपर जब आइडिया न थे financial decision हमें नहीं परिवार. ये सब ऊपर control रही organization. तो मार्केटिंग रिलेटेड डिसीजन हो कि एचआर रिलेटेड डिसीजन हो कि फाइनेंशियल रिलेटेड डिसीजन हो कि प्रोडक्शन रिलेटेड डिसीजन हो आईटी रिलेटेड डिसीजन हो ये सब गुड़ा ऊपर जेहेतु कंट्रोल रही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ये सब डिसीजन गुड़ा को बेसिकली कहू इंटरनल डिसीजंस ऑन द अदर हैंड जब हम एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स को देखियो एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स बेसिकली टॉक्स अबाउट द एक्सटर्नल एनवायरमेंटल फैक्टर्स as I have pointed out that external environment of any organization basically covers those factors on which the organization doesn't have any control over. The jaha जोड़ा की organization नो purview भीतर आसुनी किंतु तार impact ता पड़ुची organization रो operation ऊपर. सपोज आमे बिजनेस करूचे गोटे कंट्री रे यदि कंट्री रे पॉलिटिकल इंस्टेबिलिटी हे गला it will definitely affect our business. Like our business, all other businesses will also be affected. But here we are taking into consideration our own business. So our business will definitely be affected if there occurs any sorts of political instability. जदि किसी changes आसीगला in the economic conditions, ताहले मध्य the operation of the organization is going to be affected. तो political instability जो होची ता ऊपर organization रो किसी control नहीं. इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन में जो चेंजेस होची ता ऊपर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कंट्रोल नहीं जदी सोशल फैक्टर्स भीतर किसी चेंजेस आसीबो लोक मानकर प्रेफरेंसेस चेंज हे जो टेस्ट चेंज हे जो किबा सोशल बस सोसाइटी जो मान रहउछन तांकर जदी माइंड रे किसी चेंजेस आसी गला साइकोलॉजिकल चेंजेस जदी आसी जीवो ताले मतलब बिजनेस ता अफेक्टेड हे सोसाइटी ता जे अनरेस्ट हे कि रहिला जदी सोसाइटी भितरे आपनकर रिलीजन बेस्ड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स रहिला किबा कम्युनिटी भितरे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स रहिला ताले मध्य डेफिनेटली द ऑपरेशन ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विल बी अफेक्टेड तो से सोशल फैक्टर गुडा ऊपर मध्य हमर कोनोसी कंट्रोल नै Similarly, आजिकल का modern day, most of the organizations are dependent on the technology because most of the organization or most of the businesses are considered to be technology-driven businesses. तो जदि किसी technological changes आसे, कारण आमे जाने चाहिए technology is subject to be changed from time to time. जो technology टा 20 वर्ष तले थिला, it's not that the same technology we are continuing with today. कारण आज का date रे technology बहुत changes हे गला. So the technology किसी changes आसिला and if the organization is dependent on the technology, so any change occur in the technology can affect the operation of the business. तो से technological factor गुडा पर मध्य organization ने कौन सी control नहीं कारण organization से technology निजे तैयारी कर तो ऐसो factor गुडा का मैं basically कहूँ external factors. These constitute the external environmental factors. Any changes in these factors will definitely affect the operation of the organization. So if any decision is to be taken related to these external conditions or external factors, so then for those decisions, we also need to take into consideration some managerial economic concepts. So you PEST लिखा है जी, PEST stands for political, economic, social and technological. अब थोड़े अगर मध्य हमारे environmental अच्छी, legal अच्छी, तो pestal analysis भी मध्य हम कहते हैं. तो ये सब factor related जैसे कि decision हमें नौचे थोड़ा सा वो हम external affairs decisions आसिबो so for that also we need to take into consideration or we need to take into help the concepts of managerial economics. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ part decision making ରେ ଆସୁଛି ଯେ ଯାହା ବି ଆମେ decision ନଉଛେ କାରଣ ଆମେ ଯୋଉ decision ନବା it's either for the present or for the future. In general, ଆମେ जो decision नौ planning करके किसी decision नौ general the decisions are being taken for the future times to come. Maybe future time period हमरो short period हे पारे जोटा कि हमरो near future हे पारे 1 month 2 months 3 months भितरे घटिया को जाउ for that we need to take some decisions or maybe long term भितरे but जहाँ भी हमें decisions नौचे business level रे किबा any household level रे हो कि national level रे हो whatever decisions we are taking, the decisions are actually being taken against the backdrop of two things. We are going to uncertainty and risk. And future I mean, completely uncertain. I mean, decision about we take into consideration the past factors and the present factors because we do not know what will happen in future. On the basis of that, I mean, future by decision knows. तो जदि किछिटा भी चेंजेस हे गला हम जो डिसीजन नै से डिसीजन रो इंपैक्ट मध्य बदल जो so for that reason जेतबे हम डिसीजन नौचे we need to take into consideration the uncertainty factor the subject to the uncertainty that might happen what would be the likely decision you can take which ultimately can help your organization the most so ये uncertainty संगे associated है कि risk factor रोच कारण बिजनेस रे सब प्रकार रिस्क रही जोटा कि जेहेतु फ्यूचर टा अनसर्टेन रहउची फॉर दैट रीजन रिस्क फैक्टर मध्ये आसुची तो रिस्क टा मध्ये जोटा हम कहले पॉलिटिकल रिस्क हे पारे हम जानि नै जे वर्ष परे पॉलिटिकल कंडीशन कोन होबा हम एगो डिसीजन नै जाउची सपोज पॉलिटिकल सिचुएशन चेंज हे जाउची हम जानि नै इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन कोन होबो सपोज गवर्नमेंट रो पॉलिसी रे किछि चेंजेस हे गला वर्ष परे जोटा कि हम जानि नै वर्ष परे कोन होबो बट हम डिसीजन नै जाइछे गोटे तो आम डिसीजन टा फ्रुटफुल हम ना बिकज चेंजेस हो गला गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी रे जोटा कि आम हाथ में नहीं सो सेटा को हम रिस्क बोली बेसिकली कहू सो रिस्क टा हमरो इकोनॉमिक रिस्क आसी पारे पॉलिटिकल रिस्क आसी पारे सोशल रिस्क आसी पारे टेक्नोलॉजिकल रिस्क आसी पारे ह्यूमन रिस्क आसी पारे सपोज हम डिसीजन नौचे किंतु इन द इन ड्यू पीरियड ऑफ टाइम सपोज हमरो अनरेस्ट हो गला ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रे जो माने हमर काम करछुंदी वर्कर्स अछंदी एम्प्लॉइज अछंदी से माने उडे स्ट्राइक कर देले कि लॉकआउट कर दे प्रोडक्शन दा हॉल्ट हो जाउछ हम डिसीजन नै जाई छै 3 वर्ष आगवा दिला हम जानि नथले जे आगु गोटे एमजे हबा को जाउछि तो सेटा मध्ये गोटे टाइप रो रिस्क आसु सो विभिन्न प्रकार रिस्क रहउ जेतेबेले हम डिसीजन नौचे डिसीजंस आर ऑलवेज बीइंग टेकन अगेंस्ट द बैकड्रॉप ऑफ अनसर्टेनिटी एंड रिस्क तेणु डिसीजन टा जे 100% रिजल्ट हमकु दबो सेटा हम कहि परिबा नाही बट अनसर्टेनिटी और रिस्क को जदी कंसीडरेशन को नै कि हम डिसीजन नै छे then definitely it will give us the most favored outcome. So for that reason, decision making re managerial economics re importance ta air rauchi je whether we are supposed to take any decisions related to the internal affairs or related to the external affairs of the business, we need to take the help of managerial economic concepts for that. And in that regard, the importance of managerial economics is there, particularly from the perspective of decision making in the organization. तो को प्रकार डिसीजंस हमें नौच यदि if we look at the business point of view if you try to consider the business organizations as a whole so in normal circumstances or in general what are the major types of decisions which the managers are supposed to take for which they need to take the help of managerial economic concepts or managerial economic principles or managerial economic theories. So if you look at the different types of decisions which are required to be taken, particularly from the business point of view, we can find that the major type of decision is always related to the price and output. Because every business concern is supposed to be involved in some sort of production activities, whether it is related to production of goods, which we call as the manufacturing companies, or it can be related to production of services. So some output has to be produced because the responsibility of the business organization is to produce output in order to meet the requirements or needs of the people living in the society, which you generally call as the demand of the society. So to meet the demand of the society, output has to be produced either in the form of goods or in the form of services or in form of both. So output related decisions as a business organization we need to take. What should be the maximum level of output that we can produce so that we can maximize our profit? You cannot blindly go on to produce X amount or Y amount of output. It depends upon your capacity, your capability, your production capacity. what sort of technology you are using, what sort of machines you are using, how many number of labors you are using. Depending on that, you will have to ultimately take a decision. What would be the most appropriate amount of output that you must go on to produce so that you can ultimately attain the objective of maximization of profit. So once the output gets produced, it is supposed to be sold in the market because the output is being produced for the purpose of meeting the needs and requirements of the people. So the output needs to reach to those who are in requirement of it. How it reaches to those people? It reaches through the market or through a distribution channel. So until the business concerns go on to sell the output cannot reach the ultimate consumers. So for selling the output, they need to take some decisions on the pricing of those output. So the basic decisions related to any sort of business is related to the price and output decisions. So whenever as a business concern you are engaged in price and output decisions, you need to take into consideration the help of managerial economics. Then comes decisions related to demand estimation. As I have already pointed out that when we set any business, we are not setting it to run for a very short period of time. We are setting our business with a view to run it over a long period of time. We need to ensure the sustainability of our business. So for that, we need to be involved in demand estimation. ଆପଣ ଆଜିକା ଡେଟ୍ରେ ଯେତିକି ଡିମାଣ୍ଡ ଅଛି ସେତିକି ଯଦି ଫୁଲଫିଲ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଆପଣ ଚାହୁଁଛନ୍ତି ଆପଣ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନଟାକୁ ବଢେଇବେ so in that context you need to plan what would be the amount of output that you will go on to produce in 3 months to come or 6 months to come or in 1 year to come so that you can meet the increased demand of your customers or of your customers. So in that context, you are supposed to be involved in demand estimation. There are certain methods, statistical tools which we can use through which we can estimate the demand. So every business concern is supposed to be involved in demand estimation. And for that, they need to take into account the major economic concepts along with certain statistical tools. Then only they can come out with a proper, you can say that demand estimation for their product. Third is choice of technology of production. As you know, business concerns are involved in production activities because their responsibility is to provide the goods and services through production so that the goods and services that they produce will ultimately can go on to satisfy the needs and requirements of the customers or of the consumers. In that context, what sort of technology you can go on to use? You have to take a decision on that. Because you have some constraints in the form of cost. As I've already pointed out in the last class, that cost is also one sort of resources which is at the disposal of the organization. And since the resources which are at the disposal of the organization are scarce by nature, we need to properly utilize those resources or optimally utilize those resources. So here, technology, what sort of technology you should go on to choose so that with less cost you can produce the maximum output. As a result of which you can maximize your revenue and maximize your profit accordingly. So that sort of decision you need to take at the business level. So it is particularly applicable in case of manufacturing companies, not to the service-oriented companies. So what sort of technology you should use so that with less cost you can produce the output and accordingly you can maximize your revenue and maximize your profit. So for that reason, you also need to take into consideration the managerial economic concepts. Then advertising decisions. You know that in the modern day business, advertising is considered to be a necessary event. It is pertinent or it is imperative on the part of each and every business concern that they need to promote their product before their product comes to the market. Through promotion of your product, you can create some sort of awareness about your product, some sort of uniqueness about your product, some sort of advantages of your product in the minds of your prospective customers. So every business concern in this modern day business world are actually being involved in advertising. It is imperative, it is compulsory, it is necessary, it is needed the most on the part of each and every business organization that they need to be involved in advertisements. Because through advertisements, they can reach the minds of their customers. ଆପଣ ଯଦି ଲୋକଙ୍କର ସାଇକୋଲୋଜିଟାକୁ ବଦଳେଇ ଦେଇପାରିବେ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ଫେଭରରେ ନେଇ ଆସିପାରିଲେ ଅଟୋମେଟିକାଲି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟଟା ସେଲ୍ ହେଇପାରିବ କାରଣ ଲୋକଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଗୋଟେ କ୍ୟୁରିଓସିଟି ଆସିଯିବ ଯେ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟଟା କଣ ଆଉ ଦେଖୁଥିବେ ବେଳେ ବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ନୂଆ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହଉଛି ଆପଣ ଆଇଫୋନ ଯେତେବେଳେ ନୂଆ ନୂଆ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ ହେଇଥିଲା ଲୋକଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଗୋଟେ କ୍ୟୁରିଓସିଟି ଆସିଲା ତ ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ସେଇ ପଇସା ଥିଲା କାରଣ ସେତେବେଳେ ସେମାନେ ଟାର୍ଗେଟ କରିନଥିଲେ ମାସ୍ କନଜ୍ୟୁମର ଟାର୍ଗେଟ କରିଥିଲେ କିଛି କ୍ଲାସ କନଜ୍ୟୁମର ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ଏତିକି ପଇସା ଥିବ କାରଣ ତାର ପ୍ରାଇସିଂଟା ହାଇ ରହିବ ତ ସେଇମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଡିମାଣ୍ଡଟାକୁ ସେମାନେ ରେଜ କଲେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ କଲେ କିନ୍ତୁ ଆଜିକା ଡେଟରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ କମ୍ପିଟିସନ ଲେଭେଲ ବି ଏତେ ବଢିଗଲାଣି ଯେ ଯୋଉଗୁଡା ମାସ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ହିସାବରେ ଆମେ ନଉଛେ ତାର ବି ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ହଉଛି ଯଦି ତାର ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ନ କରିବେ ତାହେଲେ ମାର୍କେଟରୁ ଆପଣ ଏଲିମିନେଟେଡ ହେଇଯିବେ ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ଜିନିଷକୁ ନିଅନ୍ତୁ ଯୋଉଗୁଡା ଆପଣ ରେଗୁଲାର ବେସିସରେ ୟୁଜ ବି କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଘରେ ୟୁ କ୍ୟାନ୍ ଫାଇଣ୍ଡ ଦ୍ୟାଟ ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ଫର ଦୋଜ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟସ ଆର୍ ଅଲସୋ ଅକରିଂ ଆପଣ କହିପାରିବେ ଯେ ସେ କମ୍ପାନୀ କାହିଁକି କରୁଛି ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ତ ସମସ୍ତେ ୟାକୁ ନେବେ ଲୁଣ ଗୋଟେ ସମସ୍ତେ ନେବେ ବଟ୍ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ କମ୍ପାନୀ ବିକଜ ଦ କମ୍ପାନୀ ଇଜ ଫେସିଂ ୱିଥ୍ ଷ୍ଟିଫ୍ କମ୍ପିଟିସନ ଯଦି ତାର ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ନ କରିବ ତାର ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟର କମ୍ପିଟେଟିଭ ଆଡଭାଣ୍ଟେଜଟାକୁ ଶୋ ନ କରିବ ତାର ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟର ୟୁନିକନେସ ବିଷୟରେ କିଛି ଯଦି ଆଗୁଆ ଆୱେର ନ କରିବ କଷ୍ଟମର ମାନଙ୍କୁ ତାହେଲେ ତ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ ବିକ୍ରି ହବନି ତ ଯେତେବେଳେ ବି ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ଡିସିସନ୍ସ ଆମେ ନଉଛେ ଏନି ଡିସିସନ୍ସ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଟୁ ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ଆମେ ନଉଛେ वी आर टेकिंग इनटू कंसीडरेशन मेनी एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ मैनेजरियल इकोनॉमिक्स କାରଣ ଆପଣ ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଟେଷ୍ଟକୁ କନସିଡରେସନ ନ ନେଇକି ଲୋକଙ୍କର ପ୍ରିଫରେନ୍ସକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନ ନେଇକି ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଲାଇକିଂକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନ ନେଇକି ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଫ୍ୟାସନକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନ ନେଇକି ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ କରିପାରିବେ ନାହିଁ ଯଦି ଫ୍ୟାସନ ଚେଞ୍ଜ ହେଇଯାଇଛି ଆପଣ ଆଜିକା ଡେଟରେ ଯଦି 70-80 ମସିହାର ଫ୍ୟାସନକୁ ନେଇକି ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ତାହେଲେ ଏହାର ଇମ୍ପାକ୍ଟ କିଛି ପଡିବ ଇମ୍ପାକ୍ଟଟା କେତେବେଳେ ପଡିବ ତାହେଲେ ଆପଣ ଆଜିକା ଯୁଗର ଫ୍ୟାସନକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନେଇକି ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟ ସବୁ କେମିତି କ୍ରିଏଟ କରିବେ ଆଡଭର୍ଟାଇଜମେଣ୍ଟଟା କେମିତି ଡିଜାଇନ ହବ ସେଇଟା ମଧ୍ୟ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ରହିବ So for that, we are generally taking into consideration many aspects of managerial economics. That is the reason why any decisions related to advertisement also takes into account the managerial economic concepts. ତାପରେ ଆମର ଆସୁଛି ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ଡିସିସନ୍ସ ତ ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ରେ କଣ ହଉଛି ନା ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛେ ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ବେସିକାଲି ଇକୋନୋମିକ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଭ୍ୟୁ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା long run is considered to be a time period where the producer is having sufficient time with it to make changes in the combination of all the inputs in order to make a change in the output. କାରଣ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଟାଇମ ପିରିୟଡ ଅଧିକା ଅଛି ତ ଆପଣ ସବୁ ଯୋଉ ଇନପୁଟ ଗୁଡା ୟୁଜ କରିକି ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ସବୁ ଇନପୁଟ ର କ୍ୱାଣ୍ଟିଟିରେ ଆପଣ ଚେଞ୍ଜେସ୍ କରିପାରିବେ ବିକଜ ୟୁ ହାଭ୍ ସଫିସିଏଣ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ ୱିଥ୍ ୟୁ ବିକଜ ୟୁ ଆର୍ ଡିଲିଂ ଇନ୍ ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ତ ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଡିସିସନ ଯଦି ଆମେ ନଉଛେ ଯେ 2 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଆମେ ଆମ କମ୍ପାନୀକୁ ଏଇଠି ଦେଖିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ ଆମେ ଆମର ଟୋଟାଲ ସେଲ୍ସକୁ ଏଇ ଲେଭେଲରେ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛୁ ତାହେଲେ ୟୁ ଆର୍ ସପୋଜ ଟୁ ଟେକ୍ ସମ୍ ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ଡିସିସନ ତ ସେଠି ମଧ୍ୟ ୟୁ ଆର୍ ସପୋଜ ଟୁ ଟେକ୍ ଇନଟୁ ଆକାଉଣ୍ଟ ଦ ମ୍ୟାନେଜରିଆଲ ଇକୋନୋମିକ କନସେପ୍ଟସ ଲଙ୍ଗ ରନ୍ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ ଡିସିସନ ପାଇଁ ଯଦି କିଛି ଆମେ if we are supposed to take any decision related to long term production then also we are taking into consideration the managerial economic concepts ତାପରେ ଆସିଯାଉଛି ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ ଡିସିସନ୍ସ ଏଇଟା ବେସିକାଲି ଏଇ ପ୍ରକାର ଡିସିସନ ପାଇଁ we generally take into consideration certain macroeconomic concepts which are also a part of the managerial economics କାରଣ କାଲି ଆମେ କହିଥିଲି ଯେ managerial economics ହେଉଛି combination of both micro and macroeconomics ଏଠି ଦିଟା ଆଗ ଆମେ ପଢୁଛେ ତ ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ ଡିସିସନ୍ସଟା ମଧ୍ୟ ଡିପେଣ୍ଡ କରୁଛି କିଛି ମ୍ୟାକ୍ରୋ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟର ଉପରେ ଯଦି ସପୋଜ ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ବିଜନେସ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଆପଣଙ୍କର ବିଜନେସଟାକୁ ଏକ୍ସପାଣ୍ଡ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାକୁ ମୁଭ କରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛନ୍ତି ତ ସେ ଜାଗାର ଜୋଗ୍ରାଫିକାଲ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍ସ ମାର୍କେଟ କଣ୍ଡିସନ୍ସ ଲୋକଙ୍କର ପେଇଂ କାପାସିଟି ସବୁ ଗୁଡାକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନେଲା ପରେ ଆପଣ ଡିସିସନ ନେଇଯିବେ ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ କରିବି ନା ନାହିଁ ଯେ କେତେ କମ୍ପିଟିଟର ମୋର ଅଛନ୍ତି ସେଇ କମ୍ପିଟିଟର ଭିତରେ ମୁଁ କମ୍ପିଟ କରିପାରିବି ନା ନାହିଁ मो मार्केट शेयर जति चाहूँ से पाइपर ना नहीं तो ये सब फैक्टर को कंसीडरेशन नहीं कि आपण इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन करो इन्वेस्टमेंट ह्यूज अमाउंट रो इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन ता ब्लाइंडली नहीं जाई परिबो नाही ह्यूज अमाउंट रो इन्वॉल्वमेंट रहउची जेहेतु ह्यूज अमाउंट रो इन्वॉल्वमेंट रहउची इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजंस रे तो सेति पई वी नीड टू टेक इनटू कंसीडरेशन सर्टेन फैक्टर्स जो फैक्टर को जनरली हम कहू मैनेजरल इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स सेही फैक्टर को कंसीडरेशन नहीं कि आपण इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन नेबे आपन पाखे बहुत गुडे इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शंस रही ता भीतर को ऑप्शन रे आपण इन्वेस्टमेंट करले मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट पाई परिबे तो नॉर्मली जदि आपण देखिए सपोज आपण पाखे किसी सरप्लस अमाउंट अछि आपण कहबे बैंक रे फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट रखि परिबे ये कहबो मु म्यूचुअल फंड रे इन्वेस्टमेंट करि परिबे ये कहबो मु शेयर मार्केट रे इन्वेस्टमेंट करि परिबे ये कहबो मु अदर रियल एस्टेट रे इन्वेस्टमेंट करि परिबे बट सबुतरे किसी ना किसी रिस्क अछि तो जो अल्टीमेटली जो डिसीजन आपण नेबे सेतेबेले आपण देखिबे जे यू आर टेकिंग इनटू कंसीडरेशन सर्टेन मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स सो सेही मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर ऊपर जदि हमर आईडिया नथिबो तले हमर इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन ता प्रॉपर हे परिबो नाही ऑप्टिमम हे परिबो नाही so any decisions related to investment to be taken at the business level must have to take into consideration the managerial economic concepts. That is the reason why in the overall decision making framework, the importance of managerial economics is considered to be utmost. बुझिएला एतिके आछे हमर डिसीजन मेकिंग बर्तमान आमे जिबा रोल ऑफ मैनेजर कोन एटा हमर सेकंड पार्ट रे अछि ए ब्लॉक 1 रो कारण आमे कहले जे डिसीजन नउची की अल्टीमेटली जे मैनेजर रहबो से डिसीजन न आपण जे कोनोसी डोमेन ने भी काम करंती सेठी मैनेजरियल लेवल रहिछि मैनेजरियल लेवल ले मध्ये तारो हायरार्किकल स्ट्रक्चर रहिछि आपण सिंपल मैनेजर हे परिबे किबा एग्जीक्यूटिव मैनेजर हे परिबे किबा आपण रीजनल मैनेजर हे परिबे जोनल मैनेजर हे परिबे चीफ मैनेजर हे परिबे व्हाटएवर इट मे मैनेजर इज ए मैनेजर तो मैनेजर हमें कहा कहला मैनेजर रोल बिजनेस रे कोन रहिछि कारण मैनेजर रोल सब इम्पोर्टेंट बिकॉज आमे जो डिसीजन मेकिंग पर्सपेक्टिव रु पढुचे जे मैनेजरियल इकोनॉमिक्स रे इंपोर्टेंस ता रहिछि द decision making process re at the hem of affairs of the decision making process lies the managers because it is the managers who ultimately have to take the decisions we need to understand जे as a manager को टाइप रो डिसीजन हमें नबा कोन डिसीजंस रहउची जोडा मैनेजर नै परिबो and for that why it is needed that it must be or the manager must be familiar with the managerial economic concepts तेणु मैनेजर आम क्या कह गोटे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन रे जितेबाला कौन ऑपरेशन होउची for operation in the business or when something is being operated in the business it has to be managed properly by one individual whom we call as the manager तेणु जी generally किसी फंक्शन परफॉर्म करूची आ लोक मान को नहीं कि कामटा करूची कारण मैनेजर सब काम करिवो एज ए गाइड एज ए मेंटर मैनेजर काम करूची मैनेजर निजे किसी करूनी लोकंग द्वारा काम करेइबो सी ता अंडर जो माने सब काम करथुवे सेमान नै कि कामटा करिवो हम गोटे टीम कथा दि कहबा टीम भितरे गोटे टीम लीडर रहउची तो टीम लीडर रो काम होची सी लीडरशिप नबो लोक मान टीम रे जो माने मेंबर्स होने से मान को मोटिवेट करिवो सेमानकर इंटरेस्ट को मध्य कंसिडरेशन को नबो तापर सेमानक थ्रू रे कामटा करिवो मैनेजर रोल मध्य शेयर होची तेणु मैनेजर आम क्या कहे ना एनी इंडिविजुअल एनी पर्सन हु बेसिकली परफॉर्म द फंक्शंस ऑफ प्लानिंग ऑर्गेनाइजिंग स्टाफिंग डायरेक्टिंग एंड कंट्रोलिंग ये सब गुड़ा पढ़ी ओवरऑल बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ मैनेजमेंट प्लानिंग हो कोऑर्डिनेशन हो स्टाफिंग हो ऑर्गेनाइजिंग हो ये सब गुड़ा ये सब फंक्शन गुड़ा जो लोग करुच्ची कौन पे करुच्ची ना फॉर द अकम्प्लिशमेंट ऑफ प्री डिटरमिन्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल गोल्स हम जेटा काली कहले ऑब्जेक्टिव गोटे कंपनी रो ऑब्जेक्टिव कोन ते ऑब्जेक्टिव ता आगुआ प्री डिटरमिन होउची ऑब्जेक्टिव ता हमें आगुआ फिक्स करूचे एंड टू अटेंड दैट ऑब्जेक्टिव हम कामटा करूची ତେଣୁ ଯୋଉ ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ ଟା ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ ଫିକ୍ସ କରୁଛି ଟୁ ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ, ସେଇ ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ ଟା automatically becomes the objective of all those who are being associated with the organization, directly हुअନ୍ତୁ कि indirectly। तो मैनेजर हଉଛି ସିଏ ଯିଏ କି ଏ ସବୁ ଫଙ୍କସନ ଗୁଡାକୁ ପ୍ରପରଲି ପରଫର୍ମ କରେ। ପ୍ଲାନିଂ ରେ ତାର ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାନ୍ସ ରହୁଛି, ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜିଂ ରେ ରହୁଛି, ଷ୍ଟାଫିଂ ରେ ରହୁଛି, ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟିଂ ରେ ରହୁଛି, କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲିଂ ରେ ରହୁଛି। କଣ ପାଇଁ କରୁଛି ଏ ସବୁ ପରଫର୍ମ? ନା ଫର ଦ ଆକମ୍ପ୍ଲିଶମେଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ predetermined organization goals. Therefore, manager actually doesn't work, but the manager guide others to do things correctly. ତାପରେ ସେତିକି ସ୍କିଲ୍ସ ଅଛି, ସେତିକି acumen ଅଛି, on the basis of which manager guide करे ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କୁ ଯେ କୋଉଟା କଲେ ଠିକ ହବ, କେମିତି କଲେ ଏଇଟା ଠିକ ହବ, କେମିତି କଲେ ଆମେ ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ କରିପାରିବା ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ ଟା। ତେଣୁ ଜେନେରାଲି ଯଦି ଆମେ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର କଥା କହୁଛେ, the manager has to be a good manager, and the good manager must have the capability to get people of ordinary ability to perform in an extraordinary manner. ତାର leadership quality ଥିବା ଦରକାର, ତାର guidance power ଥିବା ଦରକାର, for that ତା ପାଖରେ ସ୍କିଲ୍ ଥିବା ଦରକାର। ବିନା ସ୍କିଲ୍ ରେ କେହି ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ହେଇପାରିବେ ନାହିଁ। ତେଣୁ ଆପଣ ଯେତେବେଳେ ନୂଆ କରି ଜଏନ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ଆପଣ ହଠାତ୍ କିନା କେହି ମ୍ୟାନେଜର କରିବେନି। କିଛି ବର୍ଷର ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ଏକ୍ସପୋଜର ପାଇଲା ପରେ, ପ୍ରପରଲି ସବୁ ଜିନିଷକୁ ବୁଝିଲା ପରେ ଦାୟିତ୍ୱ ଦିଆହବ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର। ତ ନୂଆ ପଶୁ ପଶୁ କେହି ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ହେଇଯାଆନ୍ତି। ତ ଫର ଦ୍ୟାଟ ରିଜନ ଗୋଟେ ଭଲ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ଆମେ କାହାକୁ କହିବା ନା, ଯାହା ପାଖରେ ସେଇ ସ୍କିଲ୍ ଅଛି ବା ସେଇ କ୍ୟାପାବିଲିଟି ଅଛି, ଯିଏ କି ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ଲୋକମାନେ ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ଅର୍ଡିନାରୀ ଆବିଲିଟି ଅଛି, ତାଙ୍କୁ ଏଣ୍ଟାଇଜ କରିପାରିବ ଟୁ ପରଫର୍ମ ଇନ୍ ଏ ବେଟର ୱେ, ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ଅର୍ଡିନାରୀ ମ୍ୟାନରରେ। Then comes the role of manager. ये जो रोल ऑफ मैनेजर କଥା ଆମେ କହୁଛେ, ଏଇଟା ଆମର ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପल्स ଅଫ ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ ରେ ଆପଣମାନେ ପଢିଥିବେ। ହେନରୀ ମିନ୍ସବର୍ଗ ଜାଣିଥିବେ ଆପଣ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ଅଫ ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ ରେ, because he is one of the important management personnel who has come out with or who has developed various theories of management. So in the eyes of Henry Mintzberg, or as per Henry Mintzberg, the manager of any organization basically have to perform three major roles, and under each and every individual role the manager has to take some decisions, and for each and every decision under each and every individual role the manager takes the help of managerial economics. So what are the roles which normally a manager plays in an organization? There are three roles. One is your interpersonal roles, one is your informational roles, one is your decisional roles. Under interpersonal roles, there are three things which manager is supposed to perform. One is your figurehead, one the manager must have to be a leader, and one the manager must have to be a good listener. Figurehead means what? Figurehead means the manager must perform the symbolic duties. As a manager, ତା ପାଖରେ କିଛିଟା ଅଥରିଟି ଦିଆ ହେଇଛି, ସାଇନିଂ ଅଥରିଟି ମଧ୍ୟ ସେ କିଛି ପାଉଛି। ତେଣୁ ଲିଗାଲ ଡକୁମେଣ୍ଟ ଗୁଡାକରେ ସାଇନ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ତାକୁ ଯୋଉ ଅଥରିଟି ଦିଆ ହେଇଛି, ସେଇଟାକୁ ସେ ପରଫର୍ମ କରେ। ସେଇଟା ତାର ସିମ୍ବଲିକ ଡ୍ୟୁଟି। ଆପଣ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ଯେପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ହେଇନାହାନ୍ତି, ଗୋଟେ ପୋଜିସନକୁ ଯେପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆସିନାହାନ୍ତି, ଆପଣଙ୍କର ସାଇନିଂ ଅଥରିଟି ନାହିଁ। ତେଣୁ ଗୋଟେ ଡିପାର୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟରେ ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ଡୋମେନ ଅଫ ଗୋଟେ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ ଗୋଟେ ଡୋମେନରେ ଆପଣ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ହିସାବରେ କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ଆଇଦର ଆଜି ମାର୍କେଟିଂ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ହଉ କିମ୍ବା ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ହଉ କି ଏଚଆର ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ହଉ, ସେ ଜାଗାରେ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଯେ ଆପଣଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ ଗୋଟେ ସାଇନିଂ ଅଥରିଟି ଆସିଯିବ। ତାମାନେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ସିଗ୍ନେଚର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ରହୁଛି। ଆପଣ ଯଦି ସାଇନ କରି କିଛି ଗୋଟେ କାଗଜ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି, ଗୋଟେ ଡକୁମେଣ୍ଟ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି, ଦେନ୍ ଯାହା ବି ତା ଦେହରେ ଅଛି, ଫର ଅଲ ଦୋଜ ଥିଙ୍ଗସ ୟୁ ଆର ସପୋଜ ଟୁ ବି ଲାଏବଲ। ଯଦି କିଛି ଏପଟ ସେପଟ ହେଲା ଅନ ଦ ବେସିସ୍ ଅଫ ଦ୍ୟାଟ ପେପର, ଦ୍ୟାଟ ଡକୁମେଣ୍ଟ, then you are supposed to be liable for that. ତେଣୁ କରିକି ଏ ଯୋଉ ଫିଗର ହେଡ୍ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ, generally the manager is considered to be a figure head on the capacity of an interpersonal role, and as a figure head the manager performs the symbolic duties like signing legal documents and welcome to visitors. Similarly, second aspect as interpersonal role, leader. The manager must have to act as a leader. କେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଲିଡର କହିବା ନା ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ଗୋଟେ टीम को लीड करूची गोटे डोमेन को लीड करूची गोटे डिपार्टमेंट को लीड करूची in the way that the manager motivates and directs the subordinates to do something so that the interest of the organization can be taken care of. ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ଟ୍ରେନିଂ ପ୍ରୋଭାଇଡ କରୁଛି ତାର ସବଅର୍ଡିନେଟ୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ କାଉନସିଲିଂ କରୁଛି ତାର ସବଅର୍ଡିନେଟ୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଆଣ୍ଡ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ପ୍ରପରଲି କମ୍ୟୁନିକେଟ କରୁଛି ତାର ସବଅର୍ଡିନେଟ୍ସ ସାଙ୍ଗେ, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ତାକୁ ଲିଡର ବୋଲି କହିବା। ତ ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାନେଜରକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଭଲ ଲିଡର ହବାକୁ ପଡିବ। And for that, the manager must have the skill to motivate and direct to subordinates. The manager must have the skill to train the subordinates. The manager must have the skill to counsel and communicate with the subordinates. जति subordinates को किसी problem रहुची ताको proper counseling करिवो, जहाँ भी information दवाको अछि ताको जेमति properly communicate करिवो। Third अछि liaison. Liaison means गोटे organization रे जे भी मैनेजर होची तार liasoning power तो निहात रूप रे भलो थिया दरकार। जब तार liasoning power, कारण organization तो एकुटिया जीवनी, organization must have to maintain relationship with external entities, government संगरे हो, bureaucracy संगरे हो, supplier संगरे हो, bankers संगरे हो, समस्त संगे relationship भलो रखिया दरकार। तो इठी मैनेजर रो रोल ता आसी as a liaison. So as a liaison, the manager is supposed to interact with people both inside and outside the organization, use phone calls, emails, and meetings. गोटे जेमति तार liasoning skill ता भलो थिया दरकार। So under interpersonal roles, all these things come. Then comes the informational roles. Informational roles रे तीन प्रकार रोल हम देखुची। The manager acts as a recipient, the manager acts as a disseminator, the manager acts as a spokesman. So as a recipient, the manager needs to receive information about changes, opportunities and problems that the organization may face. So as a manager, you must be able to receive what is going to happen, which can affect the organization. You must have that skill. You must have the skill to anticipate what will happen in times to come, which can affect the organization, so that time thou you can plan in a better way to cope with those situations. Jadi disseminator हिसाब हम देखिया manager को, so as a disseminator, the manager must have to forward information to subordinates, send memos and reports. Disseminator means आपण information टाको disseminate करू। जेहेतु आपण गोटे टॉप हायरार्किकल लेवल रे रहउछन एज ए मैनेजर, आपनको तळे बहुत लोक अछिंती काम करछिंती, तो आपनको ऊपर भी अछिंती टॉप हायरार्की रे, तो ऊपर और तळ भितरे गोटे प्रॉपर लिंक हे कि रहया को पड़िबो आपनको, जहां इंफॉर्मेशन ऊपर पाइले तळ ताको डिसेमिनेट करिवो, किबा तळ जदी किछि इंफॉर्मेशन पाउछंती ऊपर सेटा को डिसेमिनेट करिवो। सो जदी इंफॉर्मेशन ऊपर पाउछंती सबऑर्डिनेट्स मानको फॉरवर्ड करिवे से इंफॉर्मेशन को, यदि सबऑर्डिनेट्स मानको तरफ रु किछि इंफॉर्मेशन पाउछन जोडा कि जणा जेबा दरकार टू द टॉप हायरार्किकल लेवल, तले मेमो थ्रू रे हो किबा रिपोर्ट्स थ्रू रे हो, सेटा हमहु जणैबो। थर्ड हम कहूचे अंडर द इंफॉर्मेशनल रोल्स, the manager must have to be a good spokesman, because the manager is managing the activities of the organization, and for that the manager is supposed to act as a spokesperson for the organization. So it has to represent the organization in public through speeches and reports. Public को भितरे organization को represent करूची, because she organization is spokesperson. So under information roles, ये तीनटा काम आसुची। Then under decisional roles, हमरो चारि प्रकार जिंस। We generally consider the manager under these four heads when we talk about the decisional roles of a manager. Manager को हम सबले कहूची, manager is always considered as an entrepreneur. नॉर्मल सर्कमस्टेंस रे आम एंटरप्रेन्योर का कहबा जहाँ पाखरे किसी नुआ आइडिया अछि जे किसी नुआ आइडिया आनि बिजनेस करूची एंड अकॉर्डिंगली सक्सेसफुल होची एबा हम एंटरप्रेन्योर बोली कहूची those who have the ideas with them and try to implement those ideas into practicality ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାନେଜର ମଧ୍ୟ ସେଇଟା ରହିବା ଦରକାର ତ ସିଏ ଯେହେତୁ ପବ୍ଲିକଙ୍କ ସାଙ୍ଗେ ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟଲି ଡିଲ୍ କରୁଛି एक्सटर्नल फैक्टर गुड़ा को डायरेक्टली डील कर जानूँ कौन चेंजेस हवाक जाऊँगी ऑन दैट बेसिस से किसी नुआ आइडिया लेके आसीपारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से आइडिया को केमिति इंप्लीमेंट करा जिवो ताकू मते सेटा से कहिपारे इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट मैनेजर को हम कहूची एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर सो the as an entrepreneur the manager needs to identify new ideas and seek innovative methods to improve the performance of the organization कौन नुआ कारण कंपिटिटर माने कौन मेथड अप्लाई करछन सेटा से भला वे जानि बिकॉज़ सी मैनेज करूची एक्टिविटी गुडा तेनु कंपिटिटर जहाँ स्ट्रेटजी अच्छी ताकू कंसिडरेशन लेके जब से किसी नुआ स्ट्रेटजी लेके आसुची ताकू इंप्लीमेंट केमिति करिवो सेटा को कहू से जगह हम ताकू एंटरप्रेन्योर बोली कहबा सेकंड आसुची रिलेटेड टू डिस्टरबेंस जदि किसी डिस्टरबेंस हैला कोठी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भीतर डिस्टरबेंस ताकू मिटिगेट करबा दायित्व होची मैनेजर so the manager needs to take corrective action in case of disputes resolve conflicts among subordinates कारण से सबऑर्डिनेट्स को नहीं की काम करियो जदि सबऑर्डिनेट्स को इधर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हैला ताले से तार इफेक्ट रे तम कामटा ठीक रे हबो तेनु सबऑर्डिनेट्स मानन को इधर जदि भी किसी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होची एटा रिस्पांसिबिलिटी मैनेजर जे मैनेजर ताकू सॉर्ट आउट करिवो और जदि किसी डिस्प्यूट अराइज करूची ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भितरे मैनेजर बगी भीतर सेटा आसुची टू रिजॉल्व दैट डिस्प्यूट ताले मध्ये से रिजॉल्व करिवो देन रिसोर्स एलोकेट जेतु मैनेजर सब जिंस को मैनेज करूची आमे कहले जे जनरली ऑर्गेनाइजेशन माने इन्वॉल्व रहउछन प्रोडक्शन एक्टिविटीज रे सो इन दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट हम कहि परियो जे प्रोडक्शन एक्टिविटीज रे जो सब रिसोर्स यूटिलाइज हबो जेतु रिसोर्स गुडा हमें गला गली क्लास रे पढ़ले लिमिटेड बाय नेचर और स्कार्स बाय नेचर तेणु मैनेजर रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होची केमिति ऑप्टिमली यूटिलाइज करिवो से रिसोर्स गुडा तो रिसोर्स एलोकेटर हमें कहूचे जे जहाँ भी सब रिसोर्स रही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन न लाइक मॉनिटरी रिसोर्सेस हो कि रियल रिसोर्सेस हो टाइम रिसोर्सेस हो ये सब गुडा को से प्रॉपर्ली एलोकेट कर रिसोर्स एलोकेटर हिसाब रे मैनेजर काम करिवो कारण रिसोर्स गुडा यदि प्रॉपर्ली एलोकेटेड हुए बाय द मैनेजर देन ओनली द अल्टीमेट रिजल्ट कैन कम और लास्ट बट नॉट द लिस्ट होची नेगोशिएटर माने मैनेजर एक्ट करिवो एज ए नेगोशिएटर कहाँ से नेगोशिएट करिवो कस्टमर संगे हो सप्लायर संगे हो गवर्नमेंट संगे कारण ए माने होचो स्टेक होल्डर्स ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सप्लायर भी गोटे स्टेक होल्डर कस्टमर भी स्टेक होल्डर गवर्नमेंट भी स्टेक होल्डर तेणु जदि गवर्नमेंट रो किसी पॉलिसी चेंज हवा को जाउची मैनेजर हिसाब रे कंपनी दे ऑथराइज करिवो सी ता पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ता जे गवर्नमेंट आगे कहै आइदर रिटन फॉर्म रे हो कि ओरल फॉर्म तो नेगोशिएट कर परिवो जे हां ई चेंजेस गुडा आनिले ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आम ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कोन आम सेक्टर जे सब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अछि समस्त बेनिफिट आगे तो जेही गुडा आछि हमर डिसिजनल रोल्स तो एथिक आसिगला रोल ऑफ मैनेजर बर्तमान आसवा जो अच्छे हमर इकोनॉमिक पैराडिज्म इन बिजनेस डिसीजंस जब हम कहूचे कौन टूल्स हमें बेसिकली यूज करूचे को थ्योरी हमें बेसिकली यूज करूचे इन डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस सो मैनेजरियल इकोनॉमिक्स रे जो टूल्स रही जो बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स सब रही जो कि मैनेजर हो कि एंटरप्रेन्योर हो एमान को बेसिकली हेल्प करूची इन टेकिंग डिसीजन प्रॉपर डिसीजंस आउ तांकर जहाँ भी बिजनेस रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम रही सॉल्व करे हेल्प करूची सोडा कोन सो बेसिकली दीस टूल्स एंड थ्योरीज आर हेल्पफुल फॉर द एंटरप्रेन्योर्स एज वेल एज फॉर द managers of any organization in solving their business related problems because these tools are generally taken as a guideline in making decisions तो को टूल आसुची these are some of the tools एगुडा हमको मन रखिया पड़िबो जे these are the basic economic paradigms which are used in the business decision making process opportunity cost कहले हम कोन बुझू Opportunity cost is nothing but the cost for the next best alternative use. ଆମେ ପାଖରେ ଯେତିକି ସପୋଜ ଆମ ପାଖରେ କିଛି ଲିମିଟେଡ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି, ଆମେ ସେଇ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ କୁ ବହୁତ ୱେରେ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିପାରିବୁ, ବଟ୍ ଅଲ୍ଟିମେଟଲି ଆମେ ଗୋଟିଏ ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାର ୱେରେ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଛୁ। ସପୋଜ ଆପଣ ମାର୍କେଟ କୁ ଯାଇଛନ୍ତି କିଛି ଫ୍ରୁଟ୍ସ କିଣିବାକୁ, ଆପଣ ଦେଖିଲେ ଆପଲ ଅଛି, ଅରେଞ୍ଜ ଅଛି, ମ୍ୟାଙ୍ଗୋ ଅଛି, ଆପଣ ଚାହିଁଲେ ସବୁଥିରୁ କିଛି କିଛି ନେଇପାରିବେ, ବଟ୍ ଆପଣ ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ଆମ ପକେଟରେ 100 rupees ଅଛି, ଆଣ୍ଡ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଆଇଟମ ର ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ପ୍ରାଇସେସ୍ ଅଛି। ତ ଆକର୍ଡିଂଲି ଆପଣ ଡିସାଇଡ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ ଖାଲି ଆପଲ କିଣିବି କି ଖାଲି ଅରେଞ୍ଜ କିଣିବି କିମ୍ବା ମିକ୍ସ ଅଫ ଆପଲ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଅରେଞ୍ଜ କିଣିବି କିମ୍ବା ଖାଲି ମ୍ୟାଙ୍ଗୋ କିଣିବି, ଯାହା ହେଲେ ଡିସିସନ ନଉଛନ୍ତି। ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଟିକେ ଏନ୍ସ୍योର କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ଯେ ଯୋଉ ଡିସିସନ ଟା ଅଲ୍ଟିମେଟଲି ଆପଣ ନଉଛନ୍ତି, ବାଇ ଭର୍ଚ୍ୟୁ ଅଫ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଡିସିସନ ଯୋଉ ସାଟିସ୍ଫାକ୍ସନ ଆପଣ ପାଇବେ, that satisfaction must have to be the maximum satisfaction that you could get if you would have invested that sum of money for other options. ଆଉ ଆପଣ କେବଳ ଆପଲ କିଣିଲେ, ଆପଲ ଖାଇଲା ପରେ ଯୋଉ ସାଟିସ୍ଫାକ୍ସନ ଆପଣ ପାଉଛନ୍ତି, ଏଇଟା ଆପଣ ଏନ୍ସ୍યોର କରିବେ ଯେ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ୍ ସାଟିସ୍ଫାକ୍ସନ ଆପଣ ପାଇଲେ। ସେଥିରେ ଯଦି ଭାବିବେ ନାଇଁ ଅରେଞ୍ଜ ଟା ଆଣିଥିଲେ ମୋ ସାଟିସ୍ଫାକ୍ସନ ଆହୁରି ବଢିଥାନ୍ତା, ତାହେଲେ ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ଡିସିସନ ନେଲେ ଯେ କେବଳ ପଇସାଟା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରିକି ଆପଲ, ସେ ଡିସିସନ ଟା ଭୁଲ ଡିସିସନ। ଏଇଟା ମୁଁ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ ଲେଭେଲରେ କହୁଛି। ବିଜନେସ ଲେଭେଲରେ ସେମିତି ଯୋଉ ଆମେ ପଢିଲେ ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ ଡିସିସନ ଯୋଉ ନିଆ ହଉଛି, ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଅପସନ ଆମ ପାଖରେ ଅଛି। ସେ ଅପସନ ଭିତରେ କୋଉଟା ବେଷ୍ଟ ଅପସନ ଆମ ପାଇଁ ହବ, କୋଉ ବେଷ୍ଟ ଅପସନ ଟା ମୋଷ୍ଟ ସୁଇଟେବଲ ଫର ଦ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜେସନ ଆଜ ଏ ହୋଲ ହବ। ତେଣୁ ଅପରଚ୍ୟୁନିଟି କଷ୍ଟ ଗୋଟେ ଏଇଭଳିଆ ଭାବେ କନସେପ୍ଟ ଅଫ ଇକୋନୋମିକ୍ସ, ଯୋଉଟା କି ଯେତେବେଳେ ବି ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରକାର ଡିସିସନ ନିଆଯାଉଛି ବିଜନେସ, ସବୁବେଳେ ଏଇ କନସେପ୍ଟଟା କନସିଡରେସନ ନିଆଯିବ। So without having knowledge and opportunity cost, we cannot take any fruitful decisions in business. Second is incremental principle. Incremental को basically ଆମେ marginal ବୋଲି କହୁ। ଏ marginal concept ଟା economics ରେ ବହୁତ importance ରଖିଛି। Marginal means additional, ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ extra କିଛି production କରିବାକୁ ଯାଉଛୁ, ତା ପାଇଁ କେତେ extra ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଛୁ। ତେଣୁ marginal principle ଭିତରେ ଆମର ଆସିଯିବ marginal cost ହଉ, marginal output ହଉ, ହେଲା, marginal revenue ହଉ। କାରଣ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଯେ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ୟୁନିଟ ପାଇଁ କେତେ ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଛି, ଆଉ ଯେତିକି ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରୁଛି ବିକିବା ଦ୍ୱାରା ମୁଁ ସେତିକି କିମ୍ବା ତାଠୁ ଅଧିକା ପାଉଛି ନା ନାହିଁ, ତାହେଲେ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିବି ଯେ ହଁ ମୁଁ ଯୋଉ ଡିସିସନ ନେଲି ଠିକ ଡିସିସନ ନେଲି। ତ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ଅଫ ଟାଇମ ପର୍ସପେକ୍ଟିଭ, ଯୋଉଟା ଆମେ ବେସିକାଲି କହୁ ଟାଇମ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ଅଫ ମନି, କାରଣ ଟାଇମ ପର୍ସପେକ୍ଟିଭ ଟାକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନେଇକି ଆମେ ଡିସିସନ ନଉ। ତ ଆଜିକା ଡେଟରେ ଆମେ ସପୋଜ ଆପଣ ଆଜ ଏନ୍ ଇଣ୍ଡିଭିଜୁଆଲ ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ବ୍ୟାଙ୍କରେ, ଫିକ୍ସ ଡିପୋଜିଟରେ, କାହିଁ କରୁଛନ୍ତି? ଆପଣ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ମୁଁ ଏତିକି ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ପାଇବି, ହେଲା। ତ ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ଟାକୁ କନସିଡରେସନକୁ ନେଇକି 5 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଆପଣ କେତେ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ପାଇବେ ତାକୁ ବେସ୍ କରିକି ଡିସିସନ ନଉଛନ୍ତି। କିନ୍ତୁ ସେତେବେଳେ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ଯେ 5 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଯୋଉ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟଟା ପାଇବେ ସେଇ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ଆଜିକା ଡେଟରେ କେତେ ହେଇଥିବ। ତେଣୁ ସପୋଜ ଆପଣ 1000 ଟଙ୍କା ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ କଲେ, 5 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଆପଣ ଲେଟ୍ ସପୋଜ ପାଉଛନ୍ତି 15,000 ଟଙ୍କା। ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଯେ 5 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ 15,000 ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ଯାହା, ତାର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁଟା ଆଜିକା ଡେଟରେ କେତେ ହବ? ଯଦି ତାର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁଟା ଆପଣଙ୍କର 10,000 ରୁ ଅଧିକା ରହୁଥିବ, ତାହେଲେ ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ଡିସିସନ ନଉଛନ୍ତି ଠିକ ଡିସିସନ ନଉଛନ୍ତି। କାରଣ ଆପଣ 10,000 ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଆଉ ରିଟର୍ନ ଅଧିକା ପାଉଛନ୍ତି, ହେଲା। ତେଣୁ ଟାଇମ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ଅଫ ମନି ବା ଟାଇମ ପର୍ସପେକ୍ଟିଭ କୁ ବିନା କନସିଡରେସନ କୁ ନେଇକି ଆମେ କୌଣସି ଡିସିସନ ନେଇପାରିବା ନାହିଁ। ଏଥିରେ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ଟୁଲ୍ସ କିଛି ଆମେ ୟୁଜ କରୁଛେ, ଯୋଉ ଫାଇନାନ୍ସିଆଲ ଟୁଲ୍ସ କୁ ନେଇକି ଆମେ ଡିସିସନ ନଉଛୁ। ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାରଲି ଇନଭେଷ୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟ ରିଲେଟେଡ ଡିସିସନ ଯଦି ବିଜନେସରେ କିଛି ନିଆଯାଏ, ତାହେଲେ ସେ ଜାଗାରେ ବା କ୍ୟାପିଟାଲ ମ୍ୟାନେଜମେଣ୍ଟ କଥା ଯଦି ଆମେ ଦେଖିବା, ସେ ଜାଗାରେ ଟାଇମ ପର୍ସପେକ୍ଟିଭ ର ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାନ୍ସ ଟା ବହୁତ ଆସିବ। ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟିଂ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ଯାହାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ, ଯୋଉଟା ଏଇଲେ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ କହିଲି, ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟିଂ ଟା ହଉଛି ଯେ ଆପଣ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ କରିବେ ଯେ 5 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ଏଇଆ, ଆଜିକା ଡେଟରେ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ କେତେ ହବ, କୋଉ ରେଟରେ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ ଆପଣ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ରେଟଟା ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଯାହା ଅଛି ସେଇଟା ଯଦି କନସିଡରେସନ ନେବେ, ସେଇଟା ଆପଣ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ ରେଟ, ସେଇଟା ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟିଂ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ରହୁଛି। ତ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ ଗୁଡା ରହିଲା ଇକୋନୋମିକ୍ସ ର, ଏଇ aspect, these aspects of managerial economics are considered to be the basic economic paradigms which are generally being used in the decision making process. आर ଉପରେ ଆମକୁ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ କଣ କଣ ରହିବ, ହେଲା। So this concludes your first block, unit 1, 2, 3. because 16ଟା ୟୁନିଟ୍ ଅଛି ମୁଁ କାଲି କହିଥିଲି। ତ 1 to 3 ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଓଭରଅଲ ଆଇଡିଆ ଆମେ ନେବୁ। ନେକ୍ସଟ କ୍ଲାସରେ ମୁଁ ବ୍ଲକ 2 କୁ ଯିବା ଆମେ। यूनिट 4 ରୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିବି। କାହାକୁ କିଛି ପଚାରିବାର ଅଛି?
ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରିନ୍ସିପଲ ଯୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ୟାଗ ଲାଇନ କରି ଏଲାବୋରେଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ସେଇ ଏଲାବୋରେଟ ର ଯଦି ତା ତଳେ ଟିକେ ରହିବ ଡେସ୍କ୍ରିପସନ ଟା, ତ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଟାଇମ ଟିକେ ଫଲୋ କରିବାରେ ବେଟର ହବ।
ଠିକ ଅଛି। ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ତାର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା ଆମେ ପଢୁଛେ, କାରଣ ଏଗୁଡା ବେସିକାଲି ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ କଣ କହିଲି, ଡିସିସନ ମେକିଂ ରେ ହେଲ୍ପ କରୁଛି। वी नीड टू बी फैमिलियर अबाउट दिस कॉन्सेप्ट। हाँ आपण अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଛି, ଏଇ କନସେପ୍ଟ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଛି, ଏଇ କନସେପ୍ଟ ହଉଛି ଏଇଟା ଏତିକି ବେଳେ ୟୁଜ, ଏତିକି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ଜାଣିବା ଦରକାର। ତେଣୁ ତାର ଡିଟେଲିଂ ଭିତରକୁ କିଏ ଦେଖନ୍ତି, ତାର ବେସିକ ୟୁଜ ଯେତିକି ସେତିକି ମୁଁ ଦେଇଦେବି। କାରଣ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ତ ନୋଟ୍ସ ପ୍ରୋଭାଇଡ କରିବି ମୁଁ ଯେମିତି କହିଲି, କାରଣ ଯାହା ଅଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଷ୍ଟଡି ମ୍ୟାଟେରିଆଲ ବହୁତ ବଡ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ଯୋଉଟା କି, ତେଣୁ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ବେସିସ୍ କରିକି ମୁଁ ନୋଟ୍ସ କରିଦେଇକି ଦେଇଦେବି, ମ୍ୟାମକୁ ଦେଇଦେଲେ ମ୍ୟାମ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ପ୍ରୋଭାଇଡ, ସେଇଟା ମୁଁ ସବୁ କ୍ଲାସ ସରିଲା ପରେ ଦେବି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଠିକ ଅଛି।
ତେଣୁ ସେଥିପାଇଁ କିଛି ବ୍ୟସ୍ତ ହେବେନି। Thank you. Okay, good night all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good
Okay,
night.
sir. Good night, sir.
Thank you, sir.